up, misfits, one and all, tonight? Skeptic and Ranting. Is there scientific evidence for evolution? Spoiler alert.
That's not evidence. That's a bunch of paper.
Were you there? Well, it's actually happening.
I was there.
Oh.
But were you there when Satan was secretly planting fossils?
Hey,
The
I was
dinosaur
there.
fossils,
I was there. I'm here. I'm queer. Get used to it.
Yes. Yeah. And tonight we are watching a debate called "Is there scientific evidence for evolution?" between Kent Hovind, oh my, the Dr. Dino, versus
the one, the only,
Drysdale,
the man, the legend.
That's right. Or
the
as
former and future inmate.
I think, many of us like to call him lovingly K7H425. But on the channel, standing for truth. So won't you join James W., myself, Amy Newman, and our special guest, Atheist Jr., for a scientifically good time. I do want to thank everyone out there on the intertubes. If you are feeling fancy, please don't forget to like, follow, or subscribe, because then you'll gain access to that bell icon, which once set to all will send you reminders to join our live streams. What's up, interwebs?
That's how they know we were on.
That's right. We are a skeptic channel, including the three schmucks that you see hosting. However, we are always looking for opposing views, and we'll be looking for comments in chat, which can be sent to James W., Atheist Jr., or myself at Amy Newman. But we also want to send love to our Patreons out there.
I think that's right, Sinister. Kent's inmate number.
What is up, Sinister Porpoise? Sending
0642 2017, yeah.
To Oz from the Atheist Round.
Thanks, Oz.
In general speaking, just hang gang, yo, because we're trying to connect atheists. Because, unlike the religious people, we do it #better, and you can be found at tart.live. And we are sending love to Ian Davenport,
yeah,
the non-believer community. And also because we are kind of just throwing the fire on any creationist arguments, like watchmaker arguments, because they're very silly. They make us and a grumpy
they're very bad, yeah.
Go bleep, bleep, bleep. Because really, a 6,000-year-old Earth. No, that makes sense. And yet you use a gas-filled car.
6,015 foot.
Oh my! Don't get me excited.
I think we might hear something about that tonight, hopefully.
And
hey, Materialist Dan.
Because what is up, Materialist Dan? Religious texts like the Bible treat women very fairly, and definitely not like livestock. And that's why we're sending love to Diana's room.
Thank you, Diana.
Because some humans are more equal than others. In fact, we saw in our Bible study, it was manservant and then maidservant. Gotta have,
and then the livestock,
and then ox. So at least,
at least he didn't put she-ox or he-ox and she-ox.
Exactly, and they could have went man-ox, or manservant,
he-ox, she-ox.
Ox maidservant. So those little silver linings.
There you go.
And
Small
also,
victories.
Sending love to the resident archaeologist in the channel. Sending love to Pat Longer.
Thank you, Pat.
Woo-hoo! Who's done many awesome Talk Skeptic to us episodes, as well as his own channel, where you can find him at youtube.com/BiddyBuddha_ with
Biddy
the
Buddha.
fabulous Biddy Buddha. And of course, we're looking for empirical evidence. That's kind of what we're doing. The entire night is talking about actual scientific data, which is something that the creationists kind of struggle to give us. So sending love, Dale Pastel.
But they are good at hand waving it away. You know, we bring them all this evidence and they get to tell us, oh, that doesn't count, that doesn't count, and that doesn't count, because I don't like what it says.
Exactly. And once again, you know, we just want to teach the controversy, which is creationism is freaking stupid. That's the controversy, I do believe.
It is stupid.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Sending love also to Dave Gore, who reminds us that the Bible is a
Thanks,
flat
Dave Gar.
earth book.
Who's in chat tonight?
Woo-hoo! What is up?
As well as
the
Quran. Yes, they are both flat earth books.
As well as sending love to Scott Duke, who reminds us that animals weren't poofed into existence for us. Doesn't matter if you're a meat eater or you're a vegetarian. The animal wasn't poofed into existence for us. That's not how this works. And we're going to talk about that apparently tonight.
There we go.
And then sending love to Regos, who helps us look at our skeptic Bible studies, because the Bible gets a little bit thespian, gets a little bit stabby, gets a little bit like thou shalt stab an interfaith couple in the chest. Picky, picky, picky. And last, but certainly not least, we are sending love to Rachel Holland.
Rachel, thanks, Rachel.
Oh, YouTube gods. Oh, the copyright gods do exist, but reminding us that the Bible, the Quran, the Gospel, or the Torah, whichever version you like, they would never support slavery. That would be silly. It is an objectively forever good book. And so I don't feel like they would teach that. And so sending love once again to all of our Patreons. You enable us to make this content at patreon.com/Amy Newman, as well as all of the people in chat, our mods, and of course, viewers like you. And okay, before we get into the opposition position, we're going to just very quickly do.
Oh, no.
Oh, my.
Okay. Yeah. Do now.
Is there scientific evidence for evolution? Yes. This is where all of the genetic research points, including those like in the Human Genome Project, this is where all of the fossil evidence points, we see this in both our other ape brothers and sisters and the entire diversity of life leading back to microorganisms. In fact, it is where all of the current empirical evidence lies. It points to evolution, in fact, being the backbone of modern biology. That's because we see evolution taking place in the modern day. This is what happens with COVID every time a new variant pops up. We kill the majority of the virus, but a new strain mutates right after surviving to a new environment. Another way to think about this is two butterflies, red and green. Each genetic mutations without any physical effect. However, we can imagine a leafy green environment in which one by one red bugs were picked off and only the green ones remain. This is natural selection in action. And the pressure for survival doesn't come from an invisible mind. So, is there scientific evidence for evolution? Yes. In fact, that's where all the evidence lays. What the creationists need to do is go back to the drawing board. Or rather, get their butt back into a lab and offer their own theory with some empirical evidence and stop taking pot shots at actual science. Thank you. And all right.
All right.
Go right down the list. Then we're going into the opposing view. James W. What do you think? Is there scientific evidence for evolution?
Well, of course there is, and I think we're going to see a good presentation of that tonight. And no, Soldier, I didn't already debate Kent, so that's kind of why we're doing this. Next Friday, a week from tomorrow, I will be debating Kent Hovind on the Standing for Truth channel. It's going to be a blast. And Atheist Jr, a friend of the channel, has been so kind enough to provide some support as I prepare for Kent's debate. He's debated Kent on multiple occasions. He's kind of one of the experts on Kent Hovind in the atheist side of YouTube. So I can't think of anybody who knows more about Kent Hovind, his arguments, and has generally spent more time dealing with Kent Hovind. So it's great to have his input on this. So we're going to watch a debate between Kent Hovind and Mark Drysdale, which have been assured is going to be great. And there's Gizmo.
Thank you so very much, James. And all right, with that, we are heading over to our headliner, Atheist Jr. What is up? We are skeptic and ranting tonight, and we are asking, is there scientific evidence for evolution?
Well, yes, Amy. So what are the 5 or 6 most commonly cited evidences? I have been using that word lately. I think Kent Hovind is rubbing off on me or rubbing one off on me. So, okay, anatomy. Species can share physical features because the feature was present in a common ancestor. So that's what we talk about with vestigial structures. Molecular biology, DNA in the genetic code is a common code that's shared with all life on Earth. Biogeography, the global distribution of animals, like the fact that there are only kangaroos, marsupials in Australia. We don't see fossils of them anywhere else. The fossil record itself and direct observation. We can directly observe small-scale evolution in organisms with short life cycles, like the 30-year E. coli experiment, algae, pesticide research, and another thing is transitional fossils. So one of the best lines of evidence for evolution is you had the ancestors of modern whales were land-dwelling, 4-legged animals. And, creationists will ask, well, how did the nose go from being on the front of like the snout of a mammal, a chordate living on land, to the top of the whale where the blowhole is? Well, scientists actually have such a detailed record of this transition from Pakicetus or Ambulocetus to modern whales. They can measure how many millimeters per million years that opening moves to the back of from the front to the blowhole. So there's tons of evidence for evolution. But I wrote a tweet recently that got a lot of attention, and what I said was that creationists are always asking, "Oh, give me your one best evidence of evolution," but that's really not a good way to look at it, because you should be looking at the fact that there are so many scientific fields that confirm evolution, but that they also cross-confirm it. Independent fields of study both arrive at the same conclusion that there's evidence for evolution. Thank you.
Yeah, and nothing makes sense in biology without evolution, and there is literally nothing in biology that cannot be explained by evolution. It explains it all. Creationism would be literal biological chaos to what is a orderly field of science. It's really the antithesis of science. It's really terrible. Thank you, AJ.
And all right, with that, we are going to hear the other side and also back and forth, because it is a debate with, is there scientific evidence for evolution, between Kent Hovind versus Mark Drysdale on the channel Standing for Truth. We are going to jump into the fun, but feel free to hit up the panel if you want your specific comments read on screen.
Hey, Robert.
Say hey to what is up,
Science.
everyone. Soldier Science, Robert, Skywatcher, Pat, woo-hoo-hoo.
Hey, Pat.
James Wolf. But if you do want your specific thoughts, comments, or one-liners read on screen, feel free to tag Atheist Jr, James W, or myself at Amy Newman in chat. With that, we're jumping into the fun, which I'm sure will get a lot. I feel like 15 feet of wisdom.
Yeah, definitely.
You know my.
And what you said before, AJ, is so right, because the most powerful evidence for evolution is that everything, all the different fields, all the different observations, they all come together literally and point towards evolution right now. Everything comes together.
Over me?
Right.
Over you,
well,
baby.
one of the things when you have like the flat earthers, one of the things you notice with them is they don't have a unifying model. Instead, you tell them, how do you explain sunsets? How do you explain seasons? How do you explain the night and day cycle? And they have an ad hoc explanation for each one of those things, rather than having a unifying model that explains everything at once. And that's not a good way to do science. And that's very similar
the thing is,
to what Kent Hovind does. He's always got an answer. He's always got an explanation. It might not be a good one, but he's got it.
In fact, it's the exact opposite. You should be able to do predictive things, and it shouldn't be looking back. But that's creationist.
But their ad hoc explanations for like the sunset and the seasons will both contradict each other. Like, they can't work together. You're explaining two different phenomenons with two different models, and they conflict, but they never do it at the same time.
So, Amy, I actually have these timestamps from the comment section. So if you want to go to 7:10, that starts Mark's opening statement.
That sounds fantastic. All right. So
he wanted to kind of whittle the time down a little bit to get to the good parts.
We need to, if I may be on the nose, we need to get right to the truth. We need to stand for it. So you said 7
minutes, 10 seconds.
Sounds good.
We need to be erect for the truth.
That's right. We need to be as phallic as we can.
So go ahead. Floor is yours.
Well, what we'll do is whatever time I don't take, we'll give to Kent. He's going to need it to try to explain where this evolution theory, or religion as he calls it, falls short. So when it comes to evolution, and we've talked this basically to death, but we've learned actually quite a bit over the last couple of years with the viruses that we're dealing with now. These viruses actually become one of our strongest evidences for evolution. You've got viruses that insert themselves into our genome through DNA. We got retroviruses that insert themselves, or endogenous retroviruses that insert themselves with RNA. And we see these in many, many sites going all the way back throughout the lineage of our descendants, going all the way back to the chimpanzee that we separated from and then continued to evolve from. These retroviruses that have injected their RNA, which turns itself into DNA through a process, you can look it up. It's a lot to talk about in 12 minutes. But at any rate, it inserts itself at a chance rate of 1 in approximately 50-ish million spots into the DNA chain. And we see this in cells. And there is absolutely no way for those viruses to be where they are if you couldn't trace our ancestry back through this lineage. We can see it, and we can see it go forward. So we can see where there's been viruses that we've known the time that virus was around, and we watch it march forward through humanity from the time that it inserted itself in, and then you pass it off onto your lineage. So there's really no debate left on this. This kind of became the last nail in the coffin for anti-evolutionists, because there's no possible way to explain it except for the way that Matt Powell
ERVs are
bizarre call from Kent, where he called up Matt as one of his primary evidences against endogenous viruses, and all Matt could say was, well, we'll just throw it back onto them and say that it proves special creation. God put these here, and they're probably important for life forms to have these endogenous retroviruses inserted where and when they were, which we know is just not true. There's no evidence for that. It's just a ridiculous claim to make. It's like calling someone a name and just coming back with, I know you are, but what am I? There's no way to move on in science to take something that is thousands and thousands of peer-reviewed pages and just say, okay, well, what we'll do is we'll just throw it back at them as, well, no, that proves special creation, and we'll leave it at that. We won't add anything to it. We won't rebut any of the thousands of papers that these scientists and chemists have been doing for the last 20, 30 years, figuring this stuff out.
Never offer their own papers.
I think it was 2001, the chimpanzee.
I think ERVs were like, even when I was a Christian, ERVs were one of the things that really brought me over and said, okay,
there's no debate.
I can't be against evolution. It's just so obvious
that this is not the way this all unfolded. And, you know, you've got all these viruses that can attack animals as well as people. How can we be specially created? What is special about us as a human, as an organism that we are? What is special that would make any of us think that we are made outside of the animal kingdom? We are animals. We react like animals. Our hair stands up on end like animals. There's just so many things about us that are animal-like that once something starts looking so much like something, it probably is it. And that's really where we're at.
The other day tried to say that goosebumps are not vestigial
viruses. And in my opinion, there's nothing left. And to think that there'd be a God that would, you know, we're in this whole vaccine thing right now, all these vaccine deniers that are willing to bad talk vaccines. Are they willing to bad talk vaccines for rabies? Are they willing to bad talk vaccines for smallpox, for tetanus? Like, at what point do you stand up and say, oh, viruses, what a joke, I can take on any virus? Smallpox rots your skin off right off your bones, and it loves children. Like, at what point do you think, oh, vaccines are bad and science is bad, but I like this science, I'll get my vaccine for smallpox because that's a horrible way to die? Or we'll make sure that all the animals have their rabies vaccine because you have a 0 chance of living if you get the rabies virus. So there's just so much picking and choosing when it comes to religion and science that it's actually becoming pretty much a joke to me, just watching the whole thing and seeing the picking and choosing that goes on. It's just so dishonest. And the science we accept and the science that they don't accept, I just cannot, you know, rectify the two in my head on how you can do that. So I'll turn it over to Kent at that point. I don't want to talk into a big circle.
And I just want to say over and over, because I always ask the anti-vaccine people, what is a vaccine? Just answer me that, and then we can move on into, like, why you don't like vaccines. I have yet to get an answer from any anti-vaxxer because they don't know where it is. They're just really against it.
So Kent did an interview recently where he said a bunch of crazy stuff, and the person doing the interview asked Kent point blank about vaccines, and Kent said something that really surprised me. And do you guys know who Bill Sardi is?
He's a guy that Kent cites a lot.
Yeah,
he's
Kent's
talking about
guy who, he sells vitamins, and Kent calls him,
vitamin
says,
B17.
oh, you can you can cure all these different diseases with vitamins. Well, Kent said that Bill Sardi was hospitalized, put on a ventilator, and then 6 days later he died. So pretty sure he got COVID.
Bill Sardi is dead?
Yeah.
Oh.
But of course, this isn't going to be a moment of realization for Kent where he thinks, oh, well, maybe all of that stuff was wrong. No, he says, oh, I suspect that there was foul play involved.
Right.
and I mean, and he doesn't come out and say that, it was COVID, but I mean, he was put on a ventilator.
It's pretty obvious.
That's the symptoms of something called ARDS, which is acute respiratory distress syndrome. And, that's where the alveoli in your lungs, normally you have oxygen in your lungs, and there's an extremely thin barrier between that and your bloodstream, so the gas can diffuse into your deoxygenated red blood cells. But then with ARDS, you get fluid in there, so you can't, you can't do that. And and so that is how COVID kills. So it seems very obvious to me that that's, what happened to Bill Sardi, and I'm sure he wasn't vaccinated. You know what I mean? And just wanted to point that out.
That's just like Kent Hovind's son-in-law, his daughter's first husband, who he was saying, oh yeah, he took vitamin B17 and he beat his cancer, and then like a year later he died of cancer. It's and that's horrible. It's very sad when someone dies of cancer, but it's equally sad for somebody to try and sell their product, peddling it as a miracle cure.
Yeah, hawk their miracle snake oil.
Right. They're magic beans. Buy my beans, it'll cure cancer, and obviously it didn't.
Yeah, well, Bill Sardi was on record saying that you could take something called lysine, which is just like a common over-the-counter vitamin, and that will prevent or treat COVID. And I guess it didn't work.
No. And so here.
So like go ahead, Amy.
So I'm going to give both a fact and a joke. So natural selection, ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to believe in it, but it sure believes in you. That should be the theme of tonight. And the spoiler, this is why none of this shit works. And to any anti-vaxxer, we'll give the spoiler alert, and then maybe you can figure out if you actually dislike it or not. Okay? A vaccine is very simple. We kill the virus or collect genes that we can from it, and then we inject
spike proteins
that into the body so that your body can make a blueprint or use that as a blueprint to then create defense mechanisms so that when you actually come across it, your immune system knows how to handle it. And that is why you have a 90+ reduction of death, because there is, unlike the supernatural where they use the wand system, our empirical system actually works.
Amy uses a hybrid because she definitely uses her wand a lot too.
Yeah.
Oh my.
So, Amy, I would recommend going to, instead of us watching Kent's opening statement, which I don't think is necessary. I think I've watched this debate, and the only really important point Kent makes is at like the 22-minute mark where he talks about ERVs. So if you want to go to that section, unless you want to watch Kent's whole opening.
He's selling. I can't even do the joke because I forget.
Is he ERV?
What was Butters selling? What are the hot things that are scams? I can't even remember. The
I don't think
non-fudgeable tokens.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that one.
Powdered water.
Someone in chat will say it. What was the number that you said again?
22 minutes.
22 is filled with wisdom. We're gonna find it.
Because we all know what Kent is gonna say, you know?
He's gonna go through a script.
And if you don't, you can actually find it on my seminar number 5, 15 foot. And we're jumping in. There we go.
How do you tell right from wrong?
Tell us,
Is it wrong
Kent.
for the lion to go eat the baby zebra?
He's so off topic already.
It's wrong. The baby zebra probably don't like it. I bet the mama zebra don't like it.
Yeah, what does that have to do with evolution?
Keep borrowing
As if that can't explain prey-predator relationship.
Not just retroviruses. Let me just show you that there is a very clear answer. Retroviral promoters in the human genome. Our analysis revealed the retroviral sequence in the human genome encode tens of thousands of active promoters. Transcribed ERV sequences correspond to 1.16% of the human genome sequence. Let's see. You can read all the article for yourself. Where's this one at? Bioinformatics. Okay. Endogenous retroviruses function as gene expression regulatory elements during mammal pre-implantation embryo development. Before the embryo gets implanted into what's going to become the placenta
and everyone on Twitch.
These retroviruses, endogenous retroviruses are helpful.
Could you pause it?
Embryos exit.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so I actually I looked up this article that Kent is citing as evidence for his side, and I just hit a big Control F, typed in evolve, and it says ERVs evolve more rapidly than other TEs. I don't know what that stands for, but or you could do Control F, type in evolution. This article is working under the assumption that evolution is true.
That
So
ERVs are
Kent
part
is-
of evolution.
Yeah, Kent is citing this article, so I just wanted to mention that.
And
And the next
He's
article
quote
also.
mining, as he is known to do.
I find that's what almost all creationists do, is they will take an article, a lot of times that is like a forwarding of the actual article. And so this new article will have a headline like, is evolution unturned? Have we found the new ancestor of blah, blah, blah? And then generally what they will not include is that the very beginning of the article, it'll be like, no, but look what we found over here. And so they won't include basically the entire rest of the article.
Sal Cordova and Otangelo are known for that. Cherry picking, and they'll even tell you like, we're going through these articles looking for half sentences or sentences of truth buried in a whole study of lies.
I've seen
Basically, you're quote mining.
Quote was Stephen Jay Gould, who I'm pretty sure does not agree with him, and yet they love just whoever they want.
I think even in your debate, AJ, I think he quoted Bill Gates about DNA, and you're like, Bill Gates, the lifelong atheist. He's like, well, he won't be when he dies.
That's just a really kind of tasteless thing to say.
Absolutely.
Honestly. It's like, oh, when you're dead, you'll realize that I was actually right. Okay, Ken. If that's
because my loving
best,
God is going to be roasting you forever.
I mean, if that's the best you can do, it seems like you have a pretty weak argument if you can't prove it while we're actually alive. So, just saying.
And funny enough, I often ask, well, once we die and we do know and we believe, he'll then let us off the hook because we believe. We actually have evidence. It's pretty empirical right in front of us. They're like, no. That's cheating. You can't actually see them and then believe.
The 2-cell stage. Otherwise, the ZGA will fail and embryonic development will be blocked. They serve a very vital function. They are not evidence for evolution at all. Scientists identify new beneficial function of endogenous retroviruses in the immune response system. This has been known for a long time, Mark. Long regarded as junk DNA or genomic dark matter, endogenous retroviruses have turned out to represent important components
he's quoting
of the antiviral
believes in
immune
evolution.
response.
Is
They not only
assuming
regulate
evolution.
cellular immune activation,
Almost certainly.
directly target invading viral pathogens. In this gem, we summarize mechanisms by which retroviral fossils protect us from viral infections. So stop telling people they're evidence for evolution. They're evidence of an amazing designer who created everything. in 6 days. Even thought about what's going to happen before the embryo gets implanted. I think that's pretty cool. And if you think something as complex as the human brain or the human body happened by chance over billions of years, you really need some serious help. Somebody might have taught you. Some people are very highly educated, way beyond their intelligence, to the point where they believe they came from a rock. And all the matter in the universe fit in a dot. They really believe that.
You get it, Amy. Bring Grandpa out.
349. Okay, 349. I would like to distinguish carefully between the 6, in my last 40 seconds, there are 6 different meanings to this word evolution.
Oh, here he goes. I was hoping he already did this before, but.
Is there any scientific evidence for the Big Bang? We'll cover that if you'd like.
Yes.
Is there any evidence for chemical evolution where one chemical can become
nucleosynthesis? Yes.
Hydrogen, helium, lithium. How do you get up to past iron? There's no evidence for that.
Never heard of a supernova.
There's no evidence for stellar or planetary evolution. There's no evidence for macroevolution. There's no evidence.
The planets just poofed. God poofed them all.
It just doesn't happen. You believe it.
Could you pause it, Amy?
You believe it'll happen, but it's not science.
Well, you know why Kent has to say that there's no evidence for stars forming now. The only reason he has to say that is because the Bible says, "Oh, and God formed the stars on day 4."
God made the stars.
Yeah. He made the stars also, which doesn't necessarily imply that God made the stars and he made all of the stars that are ever going to exist on that day. And who's to say God isn't still making stars now? Like, that is why he has to interpret it that way. So he can say, "Oh, well, stars
hyper literal."
Stars go supernova, but stars aren't being born. It's just all of the stars that were created on day 4 are having supernovas at different times. It's not because stars, have been born or are alive for differing amounts of time. No, they just live different ages for some reason. And that's, creationists, they do science backwards. Kent is starting with the Bible, and he has to fit his science to that. So he's restricted from saying that we observe star formation. So he has to make the stupid argument that, nobody's ever seen a star forming. Well, Kent, I've never seen a mountain form in my own lifetime, but we still have mountains.
Well, they don't have any understanding for deep time or
just because you can't go out
longer than like 100 years. Like once it starts getting to 100 years or just a few generations, they're like, how could we possibly know?
That's a religious. It's a religious belief because you can't see it in one lifetime.
Though funny enough, almost all of their own religious claims rely on eyewitness testimony that they would never accept on something scientific. Their bar for something scientific that is actually proven, like science, which has use the word you were just saying, mountains of evidence,
or the eyewitness testimony from other religions, even like the eyewitness testimony of Muhammad that he met with the angel Gabriel and that Allah's the real God. Well, he has no problem rejecting that.
Yeah, it's only like a minute left in Kent's statement here, so.
All right, come on, Kent. Good. Organic evolution.
Organic evolution. I rest my case. Go ahead.
Origin of life.
All right, perfect timing. 12 minutes right on the dot. I appreciate the opening statements from the both of you, Dr. Dino and Mark Drysdale. Questions?
Not a doctor.
I appreciate you tagging me with your questions. Make sure, again, you're tagging me at Standing for Truth.
He taught science.
Moving into the 8-minute uninterrupted rebuttal portion of the debate. Mark, I see you got the camera fixed, so I think we are good to go. Let me unmute you. And Mark, whenever you're comfortable, whenever you're ready.
He had Mark muted during the Kent's opening.
For a response.
Yeah, I just had a call come in, so I got to figure out how to turn my speaker back.
I love that he's just doing this on his phone. Just think that's great.
Is that better? Okay, yes. Now I can hear.
And I will say, just sending love out there. Saint Beloved, welcome. We love theists. Woohoo! So, what is the best scientific evidence for evolution? Top 2 examples. I actually just, and I'll let everyone on the panel if they want.
Yeah, go ahead.
For me, evolution is a combination of two very specific facts, and I just want you to tell me which one of those facts you just doesn't think happened. And it's that genes randomly mutate. Genes randomly mutate over here, and then the environment naturally selects them. That to me is evolution. That actually gets you common ancestor, because all I need now is time. Doesn't matter how much time, it's always going to go back to a common ancestor, because genes randomly mutate and the environment naturally selects them. But anyone else?
Well, I mean, I would say that the whale evolution is very, very, very well documented. Like AJ was saying before, not only can we look at the legs and the hips evolving that show the whales evolved from terrestrial land mammals, but we can also see the blowhole going from the front of the face of a normal mammalian nose. Yeah. And we can see it slowly migrating to where it is in present day whales. There's really no explanation for that outside of the theory of evolution. Horse evolution has also really, really been well documented. We have the evolution of dogs from wolves and the speciation that involved in that. There really are so many examples. You could go on forever, but yeah. What do you think, AJ?
I just think it's kind of funny that this person basically proved what I said earlier right. They're coming in here saying, well, what's the best evidence for evolution? Well, I would say the two examples. The fact that all life on Earth shares the same genetic blueprints in DNA. They all have DNA or an RNA. They don't have a different type.
There's no other type of code.
Genetic sequence. They have different sequences, but they all function under the umbrella of DNA and RNA. And genetics, DNA and the genetic code reflect the shared ancestry of life, and DNA comparisons can show how closely related species are. So the same way that you could take an ancestry test and see that you're like 14%, you share 14% of your DNA with your cousin, you share less than that with your second cousin, you share more than that with your mother.
They can track the centromorphs.
Can be stretched to the other primates and, you know, the other mammals, the other chordates, and that percentage goes down and down and down and down, but it never gets to zero. No matter what, all of us are going to have some percentage, no matter how minuscule, to every single living organism on Earth.
Even an amoeba?
Even an amoeba has DNA. So, yeah.
And of course, we know that Amy has been DNA tested to be 30% lizard.
Oh, my Lord.
We're exposing her again. Her Jewish background comes through on the DNA, right?
There was a gentleman that really did come to me straight-faced and say, I'm fairly sure that Jewish people
they DNA tested
they did a DNA test and
on a lizard, and it came back as part Jewish.
That my parents are not 30% lizard, and if they are, I'm either applying to become a supervillain or a superhero, depending on what my powers are. Either one. Nonetheless, we are sending love out there. I saw Ian. It is good. That's right. To be with the very cool
David
people.
Icke. Yeah, no, it was someone who's obviously read David Icke's work, though. That's or someone who's followed it sort of closely. But now Kent is going to jump up and down and say, "Oh, well, DNA, RNA, that just means there's a common designer." But the thing is, he has no evidence to suggest this designer, and the only evidence he has to point to is what he's claiming is design, and say a design requires a designer, but he doesn't have any evidence of who this designer is or that he's even possible. So outside of any evidence for that, we have to assume that it's a natural process, and that's all we've ever seen on Earth. We've never seen anything else.
Yep. And with that, we're jumping into, is there scientific evidence for evolution? What is Fecknell says, solving cold cases of genetic profiling. That is pretty strong evidence.
Sorry about that. Now, how do I get back? Okay, there we go. Sorry, I had a call come in. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Okay, so instead of going a full 8 minutes, what I'd like to do is just go over Kent's stuff one at a time, because this is the standard creationist way. They just put down so much crap that you can't possibly go over all this. The only thing that's going against Kent here is he's been doing this all for so many years. He's been misunderstanding it for so many years that it kind of becomes very predictable. So let's go after these things one at a time.
I do have to say, that is funny if you think about it. Like, Kent is a professional at not understanding a subject.
Professional bullshitter, yeah.
Yeah, you know, they say a politician can talk for 30 minutes and not say anything. Kent, he has the gift, you know, he can just, he might not know
Dale.
what he's talking about, but he can talk about it.
But he can gab and gab.
Kent, that thing that you just flipped upside down and made the several layers out of, do you have that for us?
Yeah, the sand toy, probably. Yeah.
I can't hear Kent, right? We can't have a discussion back and forth at this point.
I think, Dr. Hovind, it says that somebody on your end muted you. So unfortunately,
Oh, I do have
back
to bring up, I think, someone, Brian was saying, standing for truth. How can you call Kent a doctor if you have truth in your name? I mean,
he identifies as a
many
doctor.
a science class, I am sure, somewhere at some time in his imagination. No. Probably, you know, at a Liberty University type of place.
Is the question about have I had
Bob's
the little
Christian Academy.
Have any of those layers turned to solid rock?
Have any of the layers turned to solid rock? I suppose if they were mud layers, they would still form in mud. If I removed the lid off the jar where they could dry out, yeah, they would turn to solid rock. See, there's
solid rock, eh?
Rock.
You think that sand would turn to solid rock if you took that water out of that sand?
No, I said.
How long do you think it would take?
The layers that we see today are sedimentary rock. Sediments.
How do they become rock? How do they become rock?
This one, the sand toy. I don't know if the sand. There is such a thing as sandstone, you know, Mark.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sure. Was it sand and did it turn to rock?
Absolutely, it turned to rock. Have we ever seen a sand beach in a year or 2 years or 100 years or even 1,000 years? Have we ever seen a sand, the Sahara Desert? Have we ever seen it turn to rock?
I just want to jump in real quick. I'm stopping the timer. Don't worry. I just wanted to clarify for your 8 minutes, Mark. You don't mind kind of interacting with?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Yeah,
Can we put it on normal?
He actually kind of jumped in there to save Kent.
Are we allowed to have the Kent interact with others? Do we have to muzzle or? Okay, I mean, if he bites anyone, though, that's on you.
No, it's like he's trying to interact with Kent.
This is Kent's argument for these things all the time. He comes up with these ridiculous little toys and tries to tell us, look at how it just settled.
Can we put it on the normal speed, Amy?
Absolutely.
It's just a little too fast for me.
No, I completely understand. And I will say, you know, with Kent, when he's shoving so much so fast, I can understand just wanting a normal scoop.
He's specific to do that. That's just a fact. So Kent, that will never turn to rock.
He's kind of embarrassed putting his toy away.
You have to subject it to a ton of pressure and heat for it to turn even to sandstone, which is one of our lightest stones. It's a lot like just like clay. Clay turns into limestone, basically, just crappy stone, easily erodes. But even at that, takes thousands and thousands of years to erode. Like, you've got Kent talking about the Grand Canyon blowing itself.
And what annoys me, if you ask a creationist any of these questions, like, okay, give us the creationist model for how all of these sedimentary layers are forming and continuing to form. And what they will generally say is, have you heard about a flood? What is up, praise? And hey, I will have to say, we are bringing atheists and theists together. That is what I love about people like Kent Hovind.
Oh,
These
yeah.
shady hucksters. I saw Porpoise say, as a trans person, we don't accept Pastor Hovind as a trans PhD holder. Yeah.
He's a self-identified doctor. Yeah.
Yes, I would say that I would like to see maybe a little bit credentials. He always likes to say, "Oh, just give me 15 minutes in your science classes." Oh, well, tell me, Kent, do I get 15 minutes when you're preaching or on your Adventureland? Because just let me have a Bible study with our chosen passages, and maybe things will be a little bit different.
About in a week because it overtopped a spillway. Come on, Kent. I live down by Niagara Falls. I've been watching it I'm 53 now, so I've been watching it for 45 years of my life, and I think it's backed up 8 inches. And that's just
Not
crappy
15 inches.
limestone. That's not even granite or any of our more solid of rock. So you really got to stop when you're telling people this stuff. And you're talking about the ocean, like the tides go back and forth and churn up the bottom of the ocean.
And they go
No,
in, they go out.
Kent. The energy
How
is
do we
all
explain
at the surface of the ocean. Nothing on the bottom, 10,000 feet down, gets stirred up. Well, what are you talking about? This just doesn't happen. And if you want to know that it doesn't happen, next time there's a wave breaking over your head, just dive down 2 feet. It'll go over you and you won't even know it was there. You'll just hear a little crash of it coming over the top of you. There's so many things that you get so wrong. And somehow you've got these people just standing there in awe that you're saying intelligent things. You're not. This is really getting bad. Your endogenous retrovirus insertion. So now you're saying that God put viruses into man, and he did it in a sequence over, well, we know for sure it's hundreds of thousands, if not millions.
To make it look like we had a common ancestor.
Years
Yeah.
back, through generational, watching it go through. Well, you don't believe that we came from chimpanzees or apes or anything, but we can see it inserting itself over time. And you are absolutely right. I wasn't even going to bring it up, but for the embryo to develop, some of these retroviruses are being shown to be needed. What, God made it so we had to have a virus in our body and that we would accept viruses?
That's intelligent design, right?
Realize that we would accept smallpox easily? Did he realize that rabies would kill us?
Also, hashtag, why do men have nipples? Not complaining, first of all. I do like a good toned chest on a guy. I'm just saying, why do men have nipples? Because there's really no creationist explanation.
God
Aesthetics?
Decorated the chest. Yeah, he didn't like the male chest with being plain. He felt like he would
have an explanation.
Is it a
he does. No, he does have. I've heard him say it before.
See, and
probably pretty silly, but
I just, once again, it's almost like God got everything maybe a little bit backwards. But hey, who are we?
Do you want to know the real answer, Amy?
What's the real? Yeah, now I'm curious in more ways than one.
It's because all human embryos start off as female in the earliest stages of their development.
They all start the same, yeah.
Yeah.
And then they because it takes the same tissue and makes the male structures or the female structures with the same basic material. And that's why the embryo has the gill slits, except they don't turn into gills in humans. They turn into other things, but it's the same basic material that turns into gills in fish, which actually is evidence that we have common ancestors with fish.
So, like, during the first couple of weeks, but you know,
I do too, Bird.
Whether you're going to be male or female, you know, the nipples form. And once you get to, I think, about like 6 weeks or 9 weeks in males, the testosterone kicks in, and then your body is, you know, focusing on developing, you know, important things, and the they're there, they're not going anywhere, you know. So your body is more focused on it's got more important things to do. You know, it's got to get those balls ready.
Exactly. Those real important things.
Except in people with androgen insensitivity, which is where somebody can, I believe, have an X and a Y chromosome, but their body doesn't recognize the testosterone. So it instead ends up making a female reproductive system, but it's not a functional, it's a male reproductive system shaped like a female reproductive system. And as far as I know, they would never know that they were a biological male unless they did a chromosome test. They would be infertile. They would not be able to conceive because they don't have ovaries and whatever. They have actual male testes where the ovaries would be. But yeah.
Right. And and not to derail the topic or anything, but you know, for all the people who say, you know, oh, well, there's only two genders. Well, okay, so you have XX and XY. Well, that's literally just not true, because there are people who don't fall into those two categories. So it has to be more than two categories. Yeah. So
there's intersex people.
Yeah, you know, I mean,
they're Amy can testify to.
There you go. Okay.
And I do have to say, Ian, each one of those sperm has a soul, as Jesus commanded.
And just left an open door for things to kill us because we're sinners? Come on, Kent.
Exactly. That is exactly what Ken is saying.
And you've been told so many thousands of times that this is just not even true. And no, I don't believe in the Bible. There
Ken
was
is
no
often
Jesus.
not even
Why
wrong.
would there be? Why do we need Jesuses? Why do we need gods? We don't need them anymore. We understand stuff. Go ahead, Ken.
All right, let me just. Hey, yeah,
just so dismissive. Like, go ahead, Kent.
Well, we can throw it into the discussion, actually.
Well, no, I'll take my next 2 minutes. I just don't have a clock here. You know, Ken also talked about no death before sin. So these viruses are still alive in our bodies. Is that the fact, Ken? Because they are viruses. And as a matter of fact, they took a endogenous retrovirus. It's online. You can read the paper. We won't get too deep, but they actually were able to bring it back to life, something that hasn't been around for millions of years. So you can't just say, well, no, it was never a semi-living organism, which a virus is. It's not a true living organism. It needs a cell to reproduce. But at any rate, they brought it back to life. So you can't just say, well, it's just RNA. No, it's not. They're RNA, they're DNA of a semi-living organism. So yes, there was death before sin. And I don't know what this sin is. I guess it's how bad we are in the guilt that we're supposed to feel in life. But, you know, there's just so many things, Kent. You talk about the layers. How the heck did oil get down 700 meters or 7 kilometers? How did it get down there in a nice, neat little pack? And then all of a sudden mud rolled on top of it, and then another 7 kilometers of mud from your flood. You talk about new dirt and new material. Where did all this new material come from? Because we still have our mountains, we still have everything. So I just have so many lists here of stuff that you talk about.
Do they have an explanation for mountains? Is there a reason?
The flood. The flood.
Is it just all the flood? Is like the flood?
Yeah.
The
mountains rose up.
But how
the mountains rose up
when new things happen?
Mountains rose up.
There you go. But see, I think atheists
don't ask questions.
Don't ask. Listen. I mean, but Atheist Jr was making a point earlier.
Gizmo's asking the questions here, okay?
It's an explanation, maybe. It's not really, but an explanation for what happens. But then we continue to have star formation. We continue to have mountains being created, and they have no explanation. There's no creationist model to create a mountain, except for, I guess, the flood did it.
The flood did it.
Yes, so it's the end all be all. It's like the vitamins they were hawking. Just take it. You'll be fine.
Keep buying it from me, though.
Proof for that. Where are you just pulling that out of, Kent? Why would you say we're not going to have fossilization in the future? That's just a ridiculous statement. It's unprovable.
He's pulling that out of Mrs. Hovind number 4.
You're willing to say that that sand is going to turn to rock, but you're not willing to say that bone in the future is going to be replaced by minerals. It's just a bizarre talking point that you just feel you can just fly through, and if you lay enough of it down, some of it's got to stick. But you've been doing it so long that all this
So long.
getting to the point where it's really getting silly. It really is.
All right, and that is 8 minutes, right on the dot. So that was Mark's 8-minute uninterrupted rebuttal.
Poor Kent. He's like, oh boy.
Right there. We're going to give Dr. Hovind now 8 minutes of uninterrupted
Why do his
rebuttal time.
slides
Then we'll get
always
into a
look like they're
discussion.
from
but I wanna make sure that
1998?
this discussion is equally timed and cordial for sure.
Amy.
So, Dr. Hovind, we're going to hand it over to you.
I just can't help
brother,
it.
you've got 8 minutes on the clock.
As
whenever you're
someone
ready.
who likes a good PowerPoint
All right,
presentation,
the rule
Something
was,
on the overhead projector in middle school.
11 topics in the last 8 minutes that I don't have time to answer. I'd like to stick with one topic at a time rule, if you would. And the burden of proof is on him. Where's the evidence for evolution? I don't have to prove creation. I don't have to prove the flood. The purpose of the debate is, where's the evidence for evolution? Mark would like to force everybody at the point of a gun to be forced to pay to have the public schools teach evolution. And if you don't, you go to prison. If you don't want to pay the tax to pay them to go to teach the kids that came from Iraq, you go to prison.
what?
This is his philosophy: is everybody ought to be forced to
Grandpa,
pay for his
ladies
religion
and
to be taught
gentlemen.
in the schools. And evolution is a belief. Nobody's
Yeah, sorry, Kent. We're not going to pretend we're ignorant of reality because it contradicts your Book of Bronze Age fables.
And
We're not going to pretend we don't know what we know because you don't like
We
it.
do this shtick all the time on this podcast. And I swear, some people are like, if you're a believer, as creationist, you must be saying, these atheists just tip their fedora over and over. We don't say that atheists believe that we come from rocks.
Well,
right there.
he does over
Right
and over
there.
again.
It is not atheists who are saying it. It is creationists saying atheists say that we come from rocks.
Who was that? Was that Aaron Ra who was talking to Kent? And he's like, Kent, if we froze oxygen, would you call that a rock? If we froze hydrogen, would you call that a rock? Even, we talk about rocks as minerals, and the first life is not believed to have had any minerals in it. So by definition, it's not a rock.
Yeah.
Not a rock.
Then
Mountains rise up.
we may have some things we don't understand yet. There are probably things about viruses we don't understand. I think they're an amazingly complex organism.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just have to read this slide. If you're making a sandwich or doing something, mutation. So evolution is based on two faulty assumptions. It says mutations, number one, make something new and better. No. There are good, bad, and most often benign mutations.
Yeah, they don't have any impact one way or the other.
Exactly.
What is something? What does that mean? And why is everything lowercase?
Yeah, I love this. I would say this is the Latin scientific word something, as they often use in science.
Very scientific.
Yeah, exactly. And I like how it's like he's trying to sell a new car. Slap this mutation on the back, new and better than ever.
He's trying to sell a used car. Yeah, a used car.
Yeah, it's like playing the pronoun game because, mutations make something new and better. So, so is it an animal that already exists, or is it makes it a new animal that's better? And then it says natural selection makes it survive. What is it? Are we talking about the same something from number one? I'm very confused. I'm scared and I'm shaking. The room is spinning.
Yeah, number two, natural selection makes
Hold me, AJ.
survive and take over the population. And yeah, once again, very scientific language. And I love this. The conclusion, evolution is a religion of death, not life. Because
Christianity, the symbol of Christianity is like a torture device. It's a crucifix.
Their guy being killed.
Based on somebody dying.
a very brutal, barbarous way of being killed. Yeah.
I mean, evolution is literally all at the core. All it really is about living long enough
Survival.
to reproduce. It's about survival.
Yeah.
If you
Can you
die,
find enough food to
refuse
eat
evolve.
to live long enough to reproduce? And that's the thing of it. But Kent's religion is a religion of death because, like Mark pointed out, his answer is, oh, well, after Eve ate the apple, God redid the human genome to make us susceptible to all these diseases so he could rain down death and destruction on us because we're sinners. We deserve it.
And the flood, God killed every human except for 8. That's a lot of death.
Because they're all evil and they all deserved it. Even the kids, even the babies, even the unborn, they were all
animals.
evil. Even the bunnies and the rabbits and the hamsters that he's so fond of. Yeah. What are you looking for, Newman? You're
no, I just because AJ brought it up, I was actually going to start. I just started saving a whole bunch of let's say memes that are not very friendly
devices
to religion.
Yeah.
And so it says Jesus died on a cross about 2,000 years ago. What if he died another way and at another
electric
era?
chair,
And then
guillotine,
a bunch of
a noose, axe,
religion.
machine gun, bullet, it's a celebration of death.
Well, let's keep going because I want to get to the open discussion because it gets really
dialogue.
good. That's the best part.
Viruses, are they all bad? That seems to be the tenor of what he said.
But I always just love when they're triggered by
automatically
the
bad.
words that
Apparently
describe
they have a use.
them.
Maybe we just don't understand them all yet.
Your evolutionists are religion.
So there are,
and religion's
I think,
bad.
but certainly even the DNA code in a virus is mind-boggling. It's more complex than a space shuttle. Just
complexity does not imply design.
You talk about a living organism. How did this come alive? How do you get a virus to develop bit by bit from a dot of nothing smaller than a period on a page? You guys believe we all came from an amoeba or a single-cell creature. Where's the information coming from to build any of these living things, even the viruses? So your whole theory is based, your whole religion, Mark, is based on the faulty assumption that mutations make something new and better. That's never been observed. Nobody's ever seen a beneficial mutation. Then you say natural selection makes it survive and take over the population. Again, it's a religion of death. Natural selection selects the good one to live and all the rest have to die. This is evil philosophy. Evolution is not only dumb, it's evil, okay? It's a religion of death, not life. They talk about mutation in the textbook.
Projection.
Mutation,
more evil than genocide?
Variation in populations. I agree mutations happen, and probably all the rose varieties we have today are mutants from the original rose, but they're still a rose.
They're X-Men?
Darwin said it's a truly wonderful fact that all animals and all plants throughout all time and space should be related to each other. Well, Charlie, you can believe that if you want, but that's not science. It's a lie. There's no evidence for it at all. And Mark is supposed to present evidence for why he thinks why he believes evolution is true. There's no.
Just have to read that sticker because lie. There is no proof that plants and animals are related. Well, actually, all evidence, we won't go into mathematical proofs, but all of the empirical evidence points that animals and plants are related. But thanks.
For why he thinks why he believes evolution is true. There is no reasonable evidence for anybody to believe that a cow ever produced a non-cow or a dog produced a non-dog. There's no reason, there's no evidence to believe that would happen.
Yeah, that's not how this works, Kent.
They do not produce any kind of evolution. They rearrange existing.
Okay, let's just read. No matter how numerous they may be, mutations do not produce any kind of evolution. Pierre Paul agrees. Evolution of living organism, 1977. I don't know this quote. I would have to go look it up. But the fact that he is trying to say evolution is not true from an old textbook of the evolution of living organisms makes me a little bit skeptical.
From 1977.
The bull with 5 legs.
Up-to-date data.
That's what I like about creation. It already had the information to make a leg. It just made one in the wrong spot. It didn't.
That is not a mutation. That is that's a Siamese twin or a conjoined
have
twin.
legs. There is no scientific evidence to support the evolution theory. I'm going to change that to religion. Except
Yeah,
lie.
that's more of a deformity than a mutation.
Evolution exists. Show me. If there's evidence, where is it? Don't lie and tell the students to make them, but they got to believe this theory. There's a short-legged sheep. That's a mutant. It was capitalized on. The farmer said, hey, we don't have to build a tall fence. Let's breed.
We are all mutants.
Okay, great.
We're all mutants.
And it's not beneficial to the sheep. He's the first one the wolf is going to catch.
And yeah, kill doggy.
Not ninja,
It is
but it's
projection
It'll
because
die
he
first winter.
lies.
Nobody makes a
for a
double neck
living.
turtleneck sweater that I've ever seen.
Boo.
Missing information does not
That's a
create.
terrible joke, huh?
You can rearrange the letters in the word Christmas and get all kinds of words, but you're never going to get Xerox, zebra, or queen. This textbook tried to answer. They said, oh, normal fruit flies have 2 wings. This mutant has 4. Oh, a mutation. Wow. This rare mutation, like most mutations, is harmful. Then the book says, beneficial mutations are the raw material for natural selection. Whoa, stop.
So what?
Why didn't you show a beneficial mutation? Why did they?
Maybe it's on a different page.
Which is all
You're
there
looking
are.
at one page.
Beneficial mutations is how it works, boys and girls. Well, show me a good
Because
one. teacher.
beneficial mutations turn into traits that remain with the organism.
That now you got the problem. If there could find one, it's you got to get 2 of the opposite sex.
No, you don't.
You gotta
No,
find-
you don't.
Married and have kids, and the kids have to survive.
Traits can be passed down from one parent. You don't need both to have the same
Yeah.
trait.
Imagination.
Just pause it. Just pause it, Amy. Pause it. This is so wrong. Like he's saying that 2 like animals have to get the same mutation and then breed with each other. Like it's just completely wrong. And he's saying like, oh well, what if the male evolved but the female didn't evolve till 500 years later? Like this is great comfort levels of not understanding evolution. Evolution is about populations of animals, not singular animals.
Exactly. And that is why he always pushes for the cow doesn't become a dinosaur or anything like that. Because
Hamster on a
it
corn
is
stalk.
about overall population slowly gravitating towards one genetic mutation or another. They just cannot understand time, or he doesn't want to understand these.
I think that's
concepts.
part of it. Yeah, he doesn't want to understand it.
But also, I just have to send a shout out to SpongeBob. Good old Spongy.
The amoeba could turn to a whale. Just imagine, boys and girls. It's dumb. I think it's evil to teach that to kids, okay? One professor said, I think I've got evidence
mad.
of a beneficial mutation.
He's trying to feign
Selenium
indignation.
not get malaria. Well, that's brilliant. If you cut off your hands, you can't get handcuffed
safe.
either.
Very safe.
Cut off your feet, you can't get athlete's foot. That's a beneficial mutation.
Pause. Okay, that is a huge misrepresentation of that beneficial mutation. Okay, it's not saying, oh well, if you have sickle cell anemia, you can't get malaria. No, it's if you have the beneficial mutation to have a certain trait. It's the best of both worlds. You don't have sickle cell anemia, but you also can't get malaria. Okay, it's not you have sickle cell anemia, but you can't get malaria. So Kent totally lies about that, even though it's been explained to him directly.
And the worst thing about many of these creationists like Kent, they have been explained these concepts by the best people in the world, the leading experts. And all they will do is, he'll sit there and just call them idiots.
Amy, could you go to 4315? That's the start of the open discussion.
Open discussion.
Maybe we can just skip the rest of this.
I will have to bring up, what the hell is do a time warp. You said 4315. All right.
Yeah, just go back a little bit.
And I like to go just a hair of whatever you said. So we'll
God, ask Embley of God in the house again.
Oh.
Kent just ended with his rebuttal. We'll allow you to ask the first question or make the first point, and we'll go from there.
Okay, what I want to do going back and forth here to pin Kent down a little bit, because this snake style of debate has to end. So let's do one question for one answer, and then Kent can go, and we'll go back and forth. So when I ask a question, I want an answer to it. I don't want to hear about the Grand Canyon. I don't want him to go flying off on some tangent that doesn't even exist. So,
if you are not familiar with the apologetic for the Grand Canyon, well, we've been selling a cure-all tonight. The flood did it.
The
This
flood
is, when
did it.
this is when the video starts to really get good.
Oh.
one of the things that I want to ask you, Kent, do you believe that an elephant and a woolly mammoth at one point were related and came from a common ancestor?
I would have no way of knowing that. We see certainly elephants. We see certainly woolly mammoths. They might have both been created. I don't think anybody could possibly answer that question. You can believe that if you'd like, but I don't see any possible way to know. We can't go back in time. We're kind of locked in 2022 right now. We can't go back. So I think they certainly look very similar. They have follow the same design pattern. I would say it would be reasonable to assume that maybe they did, but it certainly could not be proven scientifically.
Okay, actually, it can be
woolly
because we have
mammoth
perfectly
and elephant share common ancestor.
perfectly
That's where we are right now.
beautiful
Thank you, Kent.
specimens that we can get DNA out of. That we can. They're right there. They have hair. They still have their teeth. They still have their horns. And yes, they are descendants no different from an Asian elephant to an African elephant to the woolly mammoth that walked North America and other northern latitudes. So my question to you then is, if the woolly mammoth, the Asian elephant, and the African elephant look so much alike and can be proven genetically to come from the exact same source, what is the difference that you see in an ape and a man that would tell you that there's absolutely no way that they come from the same stock or come from the same point of separation and then evolved into what they are? What do you really see? I'll even throw monkeys in there so you have the tail to deal with. So apes, monkeys, chimpanzees, bonobos, all of them. What difference do you see between man and our fellow primate?
Our fellow primates. Whoa, what a loaded statement. You might be related to one. I am not, okay? I think the fact that there is...
I
Not
feel
only
like
related, Kent, you are one.
they are just, Kent is just a Rolodex of like showing that the fedora should be taken off. It's creationist. You think we're tipping the fedoras every time that I talk about how creationists look down on other animals. Literally. Another ape? Are you saying, first of all, they always go to a monkey incorrectly. They're like, are you saying that we came from monkeys? Well, no. We are saying that we are apes and that apes, monkeys, and all of life shares a common ancestor. And we don't have to look down on other animals to think that. In fact, you should just lift all of life up so that, you're not an asshole. Doesn't matter. Omnivore, carnivore, vegetarian. We can all agree that animals were not poofed into our existence so that we could eat them. Honestly, it is a childish concept. There really is no other way but to say that. Oh, we lost James to Satan. Sometimes that happens. He sells timeshares in hell. We both do that. But we are, as I lose my voice, we are, damn it, Satan. Or maybe it's God. Yahweh, are you taking it? No? Everyone always
Did we lose James?
He got taken by Satan. He's selling timeshares in hell.
Honestly, you guys have been roboting for me here and there. So I closed all my tabs in Chrome, but it seems to be happening with StreamYard a lot. So, yeah.
Well, that's okay. We're still moving through. Fun. I guess tell us in chat if you can hear okay. We are getting to, I think, the best parts of, is there scientific evidence for evolution between Kent Hovind and Mark Drysdale? And I need to get Mark's channel up if he has one. I'll take a look on Standing for Truth's stream. And then we have Atheist Jr with us. And you should be checking out AJ's channel right now. And all right. We're jumping back in.
similar false premise in your origin there, original question about because they have DNA similarities between African elephant, Asian elephant, woolly mammoth, and mastodon, therefore that proves they're related. No, it doesn't. There are many similarities. I've got probably 4,000 books here in my library. All of them use the same basic code of 26 letters. That's just the code. That's what you write English with. Okay.
I hate when they try and do this programming analogy
code
shtick.
does not prove a relationship. This is your imagination running wild, Mark. It might be that they're related. I probably could prove that my son or my daughter are related to me genetically, but I don't know that I could prove my ancestry back for thousands of years. We could try, but see, that kind of stuff it starts to leave science and get into imagination, fairy tale stuff. So, for your question, you had a false premise about them. We don't know that the mammoth and elephant are related. We can believe that they may be.
Yes,
but
yes,
it's not been proven. But apes and humans and chimpanzees and bonobos and gorillas and orangutans all have lots of differences. Can they interbreed?
Did you hear him say orangutan?
Any interest whatsoever in the gorillas to crossbreed with them? If you don't know what the same kind of animal is in most of the
and also that is the definition of a species, is that they can't interbreed with each other. Like, that is the literal definition. They are in a hierarchy of separation from common ancestors. So us and monkeys are branches, apes and monkeys, even though we share, if you go back enough, a common ancestor.
Definitely in the same clade as apes, even though different species.
Yeah, exactly. But we are
common ancestor.
Regardless, we don't share a common ancestor with apes. We are apes.
Curious. Ask the males. They'll tell you. They'll chase the female of their kind.
I will. What are we talking about?
Our squirrels around here show no interest whatsoever in the rabbits. None. We have llamas, alpacas, miniature horses. They all mate after their kind. They know what the same kind is. So no, I think you'll find if you turned them all loose in the woods, the monkeys would seek out the monkeys and the apes would seek out the.
See, Kent is saying that the chimpanzee will seek out the female chimpanzee. That's how you can tell what kind. But bonobos have gay sex all day long. They love it. Scientific fact. I just wanted to say that because he mentioned bonobos, and so what he's saying is just not true. Haven't you ever seen a dog hump another animal? It's not a dog, or
inanimate object.
Yeah, a couch or the leg of a human girl. It's just not true what he's saying.
Can I just say this? And my parents, as embarrassed as they will say, we always joke that they have a trans dog because it is a female dog that will hump the leg. So, woo-hoo. Look, we are just egalitarians no matter whether you are a cat lover or a dog. But we is there scientific evidence for evolution? In fact, some of us would say that we are skeptic and ranting. I don't know. I don't think Kent is
that's right, Ian.
winning us over.
Apes and never a twain between. It doesn't happen. It's imagination. So you can believe you're related to a monkey, and obviously
Atheist Sr. That's our Ra. We had him on last week.
You and your monkey friends, but I don't believe I am. I think there's certainly a lot of differences intellectually. Well, I know some cases where it's not that great a difference, but I think there are differences genetically. Differences that we're a different kind. They show no interest in mating. They certainly have different habits. They're obviously different cleanliness habits. I don't think you'll find any monkey ever capable of typing out a single sentence. Train a monkey to type out the Gettysburg Address.
I love this. Once again, this is we went to the moon argument. Basically, we did a bunch of cool shit. Therefore, we are not animals.
Yeah.
Okay.
Taught and train and learn new skills and use lots of different tools. Monkeys sometimes take a stick and poke it down the hole, and they call that using a tool. Not similar to what man has done. They're just man is so
I like
far
how he like takes pot shots at the fact that there are, I believe he said, chimpanzees that will take a stick and they will put it into an ant hive and they will actually collect ants that they can then eat. That is actually what our ancestors were doing. That is the beginning of tool making.
That's tool
It is
use.
the beginning of introspection. It is. I really.
It's a really primitive tool, but it's showing some type of intellect from the animal, because they probably at first were trying to just stick their hand in the ant pile and were getting hurt. So they actually figured out that they could just put the stick in there and then eat the ants off of there.
They won't bite my hand. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of impressive, really.
Really is.
And part of it is because they have opposable thumbs and can actually manipulate tool, even if it is very primitive. Well, what about 100,000 years from now? How smart could chimps be? I saw the new Planet of the Apes movies.
Look, just saying.
Hey,
Be kind to our ape brothers and sisters, right?
out of the class of all the animals. I think plants have a body. Animals are different than plants.
What?
Animals have a body and a consciousness of life. Man
Plants have a
has
body?
A consciousness of life and a consciousness of God. You won't find a single monkey
Yeah,
or
sorry,
ape
what?
or bonobo or gorilla ever looking up to heaven saying, "Thank you, God." Never. They don't do it. They don't believe it.
They can do sign language.
Once again, I would say because there are 3 atheists, in that respect, I think the bonobo has the advantage there. I don't know if you're talking about an ape,
Yeah.
but you are basically doing something silly, Kent. You are giving a false positive. You are saying, why was the
They don't have an
universe
imaginary
created?
friend in the sky.
Well, God, in the same way that other men before us came before and said, why does lightning happen? Well, it must be because there are gods commanding it to happen. Yeah, it doesn't work like that.
Why is there a rainbow in the sky? Well, after God committed genocide, he decided that he would make water so that it would break apart white light into its constituent parts. So therefore, the gay pride symbol would be emblazoned over the sky after it rains. Praise God.
Praise God. And keep sending in those comments
Gay men.
to Atheist Jr, James W, and myself at Amy Newman. Pat says, well, Moses wiped his ass with his own hand. I guess the shit marks on the 10 Commandments should have been a clue. I mean, look, you gotta go, and the Israelites weren't looking. Or at least that's what I think it says.
They were busy making the golden calf so God could kill them.
They were too busy turning on the God that they actually had empirical evidence for like 10 minutes ago, and somehow foiling an omnipotent God's plans.
You remember that God who just killed the whole Pharaoh's army right in front of us by parting the sea? Moses, he's been up that mountain for a little long. Why don't we just melt a bunch of gold together and make an idol? What could go wrong, right? God won't be mad.
Exactly. I'm sure it'll be fine.
They don't think about God. At least humans, some of them, think about it. There's giant
Some of
differences.
them.
We have a spiritual side to us. We have a soul, Mark. A soul.
I would like evidence
Yes,
for that
there's lots
claim.
of differences. You can be related to him if you want. I'm not. Go ahead.
Yes, you are.
Mark, take equal time. Go ahead.
So there's the tangents that I'm talking about, going down all kinds of different rabbit holes. It's hard to even remember a lot of what he said. So you do know, you talked about red hair, that we could start killing off people with red hair.
That smile on Kenty.
Only keeping people, I forget what you said. Do you understand that red hair doesn't have a purpose as far as evolution goes, unless man found redheaded women more attractive or men the other way around? You know what I'm saying? But let's take black skin, for example. Ken, where do we find people with black skin?
I have actually never seen a black man. I've seen some
You know
pretty
what I'm
dark
talking
brown.
about, Ken. What we
No,
consider
I don't.
a black-skinned person.
I've never seen a white man. Mark, this is white.
Hold on, I'm not done saying my
Not
stupid
white.
talking
Never
point.
seen a white man. Never seen a black man. I've seen all.
Okay,
different
we
shades
get
of
it, Kent. You're not racist.
some pretty dark, some pretty
Congratulations.
light. So I think those living near the equator or those exposed to a lot of sunshine, those with darker skin seem to be protected more from skin cancer and problems with that. So they probably would survive better. It might be a case of natural selection, selecting darker skin to survive in some climates and lighter skin to survive in other climates. But
wait, would that be a religion of death because all the people without the darker skin had to die, right?
That's evolution, Ken.
I know.
That's a religion of death.
He has to give the bag out, and yet, you know, once he's popped it, he has to now try and put the air back in.
But you know, the thing though is we're all still the same kind because we're all still interfertile, even though there are differences, we're still very close genetically.
Light-skinned are related. I've never seen a black man.
So no, you're absolutely wrong.
I've
The
never
skin
seen a
color
ribbed
stops
woman.
it from being able to absorb too much sunlight, and that is why it's there. And that is a good example of something that if it hadn't evolved, it would have died, and that is us. And us to the north with dark skin do not get enough of the vitamins that we need out of the sun. So we are designed to absorb it or die, and they are designed to reject it or die. So there is a perfect example of evolution. And I know you tried to bring in that there was some kind of a racist tone to that. My wife happens to be, or my girlfriend happens to be a black lady, and they prefer to be called black, not brown. So she is a black woman, and she's from Grenada. And fact is, you go down there and they don't suffer in the sun the way we do. They don't get the sunburns that we do. They take on color, but that skin color is designed through nature to block out the amount of sunshine that can get into your skin, into the organ that's responsible for bringing in the vitamins that we need from the sun. And it moderates it. And if that is not moderated properly, we die. So there is a good example of why we have black-skinned people near the equator, and it goes lighter as you move away from the equator. Now, obviously, with world travel and interracial relationships, colors have changed and stuff. But you go back to before we had the ability to travel from continent to continent. The color variation is pretty consistent from the equator all the way out to the ends. So I'm not saying that we ended up with a completely different species. Obviously, we can all interbreed. We are all humans. We are all equals. We're not saying that. But you say that you talk about evolution like we have to kill things for things to evolve. Why do we have to kill things? And what's this? Death is evil. If death is evil, then God is evil. God is the one that has bestowed death on us all for eating an apple.
Johnny, we got 5 topics going here. One topic at a time, please.
We got one. We got one. I'm telling you.
What is the topic? You asked me about where did the dark-skinned people come from. I gave an answer.
No, you didn't. You didn't, Ken. You didn't give it. You didn't give a. You said, "Oh, maybe it's," but nobody can prove it. What do you mean you can't prove it? You think that's what test?
Okay, let's do this, gentlemen. I've been keeping track of both of your times, so it's between about 2 to 3 minutes each per response. So it's been good. Mark, that was about 2.5 minutes. So Kent, let's hand it to you equal time. And then if you gentlemen want, we'll move to another point in terms of evolution. So, okay, go ahead.
So Mark, you believe darker skinned people thrive and do better and actually need to be sunlight down near the closer to the equator. And the further north they get, the more dangerous that is. Yet you brought
He was asking you, where does the development of skin color and why are there changes to begin with that is trying to give predictive power
based on the geography of where the people came from.
Based on the environment. And the
Yeah,
fact that all humans can mate no matter where on Earth is because we are a single species. That is the point, Kent. But
This is my favorite part right here. It's so good.
Need a woman up to Canada. Are you trying to harm her in some way? She needs to have a long talk with somebody about that. Yes, they can interbreed. You're still human.
Of all people, okay?
You get a dark or a light skinned one. Find an albino chimpanzee if you'd like. It won't work. Okay.
I didn't bring a Grenadian woman up. She's lived here her entire life. And yes, we do have vitamins and minerals.
I love that so much. It's so good.
You know, limitations of what she would be able to absorb in her skin compared to me. When I go down to the equator where I plan on living is down in Grenada in the very near future, I can wear hats. I can do things to keep the sun off my skin. But I believe Kent has his time now to ask the question. We have to kind of go back and forth that way.
Oh, that's him.
Yeah.
My
go
question
ahead,
would
Dr.
be,
Banner, ask some questions.
my question is, Mark, very simple. Do you believe what you just described, the darker skin or lighter skin and the way it reacts to the sunlight, would that process turn an amoeba to a whale over billions of years?
Yes.
Why would it? Why would we need it to change a amoeba to a tree or?
But I'll play his game, which is yes. If you just give me the fact that genes will mutate, and like I was talking with the butterflies, there is no physical difference between a butterfly having red skin or green skin, other than just maybe the actual wavelength. But besides that, butterfly doesn't care, or probably doesn't even know what color it is. And so the environment is just picking it apart. It's not like the environment hates red butterflies and wants to get rid of all of them. It's just that photosynthetic cells are green, and thus the green butterflies survive longer and are able to pass on their genes.
Isn't it even amazing that animals that evolve mimicry, like the snakes that evolve to look like poisonous snakes or venomous snakes, they're not, but they have similar patterns to them so that other animals will hopefully confuse them with a dangerous animal.
Most blue frogs are poisonous, but not all of them. Some of them take advantage of the fact that they just look like poisonous frogs.
You've got like the coral snakes and the milk snakes. One will kill you, the other one won't.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay.
But if you are watching or have recently joined us, we are watching Is There Scientific Evolution?
Yes, Gizmo.
Is there scientific evidence for evolution? Watching a debate between Kent Hovind and Mark Drysdale. And man, we have been just getting so much wisdom, just wisdom after wisdom.
Anything. Why would that type of natural selection? Where's the pressure? Where's the pressure to do it? You need pressure. The sun, in this case, is the pressure. The fact that you can't live if you absorb too much of the sun's vitamins or too little is a pressure, and it causes us to evolve in that way, because the people that are not designed to be in that particular location will not make it. They will slowly, over generation after generation after generation, they will die off.
Hey, Titan.
Where is the pressure for an amoeba to turn to anything other than an amoeba?
Well, great question. There is no pressure for any animal or any other organism to turn into anything. In fact, the pressure would either be a new gene is mutated, so adding something into a new niche, but most likely the environment changes. As the Earth gets warmer, and the Earth is getting warmer, there will be mass extinctions, and I'm sure there will be one or two animals or species that actually find a new niche. And that is just what happens as the environment changes, though I would like to avoid the mass extinction.
And that's where we see the most radical shifts in evolution is after like a cataclysm, like the meteor that killed the dinosaurs, which killed all the large ones, but the smaller ones that were able to cope with the changes to the environment, they became birds, and they're still dinosaurs.
In fact, birds are the only branch of surviving dinosaurs.
Yeah. And you can see that in their DNA.
I honestly, I know that just looking at things isn't proof. You know, we have things like genetics and I would say a steady fossil record. Nonetheless, if you just look at other ape skeletons and you don't see the differences or the actual overall similarities, I should say, you're blind. You are absolutely freaking blind. I honestly think if you don't see it with, we could take a chicken bone and just lay them out. If you do not see the similarity to dinosaurs, I think you're blind because it's very obvious.
Even my mom, who is a fundamentalist young earth creationist, we used to have birds when we were growing up. They raised birds, and there was even a time she was looking at the bird walk on the ground and said, I can see why they say they come from dinosaurs. Because just comparing the way it would walk versus compared to like imagining it being 100 times that size, being the size of a dinosaur, it just, yeah.
There were many four-legged dinosaurs, but I feel like just the avian way of walking and some like T-Rex or a Velociraptor, you could see
it's just
the
uncanny.
joints. Exactly.
You can see how similar it would be. Yeah.
What's up? I'm sorry, Wilson. What's up, everybody? And let's jump back into the fun.
Are
We
there
know
still
amoebas
amoebas
still
around? Are there
Pardon me?
still
What?
amoebas around?
Trillions of them, yeah.
So what are you talking about? You're trying to make it sound like evolution is linear. We've never said that that evolution is linear. There's nothing linear about it. We came from an ape. We came from a monkey. We came from a chimpanzee. No, we're related to them. You can go back to a chimpanzee, which they are actually thinking is where we came from. I know it's been ape all along, but they've traced it back to a certain chimpanzee. I just watched it about a year ago. And as a matter of fact, with an ape, they just were able to take an ape embryo and put human stem cells into it. And that it started to divide and it started to progress. They kept it alive for, I believe, 70 days or 60 days. You can read about it online. But yeah, I don't know where you're thinking that evolution is linear. No one's ever said it's linear. That's a linear way of thinking that an amoeba is all of a sudden going to turn into a tree or an elephant. Why? Who would even tell you that? You clearly don't understand what evolution is.
Well, I have never said it all of a sudden turned into anything. Look at the textbooks. They show a protista, a single-celled organism, turning into a human, a reptile, a frog, a star urchin, a sea urchin, a mollusk. This is what the textbooks teach. I resent that. Your phylogenetic trees that I'm sure you believe in have
It
all
does
the animals.
sound funny, or I can't really prove his intent, but even when he says I resent that, I can tell he's not being truthful. Like he's doing it just for a
Feigning outrage.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, hold me back, hold me back.
Related. Mark, are you related to an oak tree?
Kent, that chart of evolution that you just held up, your first one there, is the absolute stupidest tree of evolution I've ever seen. I don't know where you got that, but I'm assuming it's preschool. Where have you ever seen a true evolutionary chart? Now, there's a real one. There you go. Where is that showing one animal treeing up like a tree and an amoeba just turning into a starfish? Over here it became a fish. Up here it became an elephant. No, don't show stuff that you know is not true, and then right after it, 3 seconds later, you show a proper evolutionary tree. Come on, you can't do that. That just shows dishonesty.
A proper evolutionary tree. This
You think
one,
that kindergarten one that you showed, an amoeba turning into a starfish, that is in any book anywhere on this earth, or did you make it up?
right out of the books. Let's see. This one's from the evolution of seed plants. Lumenlearning.com.
He's like the
Shows a
latest
tomato
1970s
and a
textbooks I
soybean and a
found this.
grape and moss go back. To
Can I go back to talking about the dot of
I can
nothing?
find them by the thousands for you, showing all animals, all life forms going back to a common ancestor, which was an amoeba or a protista, a single-celled creature. Do you believe over quadrillions of years,
I love this
an
part.
amoeba will turn into a whale?
I'm sorry.
Quadrillions of years. Where's quadrillions of years
Okay.
coming from?
You
Kent,
feel
you're
like-
an
Sorry, what?
educator. Come on, man. We've got
I'm trying to, I know, and I'm trying to
13.7.
educate you. Come on,
Well,
man.
you don't do it by being silly. Quadrillions of years. We got 13.7
Okay,
billion
Mark.
years and that we're
Okay.
dealing with. We got 4.5 billion years on Earth. After about 300 or 400 million years, yes, we started to get single-celled animals, not quadrillion. We're not even talking numbers like that.
Even Donnie is like ready, like
You all
you can
that
tell he's just
want. Now go back
So
to
wanting
good.
to save
so
Kent.
good.
did an amoeba turn to a whale? And you feel like did it turn to a whale at all? And you tell me how much time it took.
Absolutely not. Absolutely
amoeba-
not. No amoeba
So
ever turned into a whale. And then you hold up your hand like you've won some kind of battle. Who would ever do that? Do you evolution and say, look, Kent, we came from this bird? No, we say that we came from apes, chimpanzees. We don't do ridiculous things like that. Now you want to go back and start tracing mammals back through where we divided off with rodents and stuff like that. Sure, but this isn't something that there's one or two lines. There's millions of lines, Kent, and there's dead ends where animals just did not make it. The environment changed too much, or we had a catastrophe that just wiped them out and allowed another animal to live
Good
on.
point.
So no amoeba turned into any massive mammal. No, not even close. It's just a complete misunderstanding.
Mark.
And if you read that in a textbook, I'm telling you, get that textbook off the shelf.
Hey, Randall.
Yay! Now we're talking. Yay! Those textbooks off
Now
the
we're
shelf.
talking about
Now,
it.
Mark,
Go ahead.
I didn't interrupt you. Don't interrupt me. Hope
Oh,
biology
I'm
textbook sitting
sorry.
right here on my shelf shows a picture of mammals on the far upper right corner, having a line drawing back to a common ancestor with lizards and turtles and birds. Do you believe mammals and birds have a common ancestor with lizards in any number of generations you want?
Of course they do.
Okay, Mark,
But
do you
Ken,
believe
look,
do you believe
let me
you are
answer that.
related to an
Well,
amoeba?
let's just allow Kent to finish it. I want to make sure
Okay,
there's no
go ahead.
crosstalk. Okay, go ahead.
Mark,
Change
do you,
subject.
do you believe you are related to a strawberry?
Of course we are.
Once again, I hate these type of straw men. A strawberry is actually the reproductive organ of the plant. Are we related to the plant? Yes, we have a common ancestor, but it is the equivalent of looking at a reproductive system and being like, "Are you that? Is that you?" It's like,
I
well,
mean,
no, but there are pieces of it that are.
he's
Yeah,
trying to ask like gotcha questions, but it would only be a gotcha to somebody who had his level of understanding also.
I called Kent out on something similar when I debated him because he asked about, being related to a banana or something, and I said
He
no,
went
no,
totally.
it's a
Ray
banana
Comfort.
plant or a banana tree,
100%.
and he was very upset of that I would dare to ask him to be specific about something,
Yeah, because he's basically just taking a organ and being like, "Are you related to an organ?"
He's
Like-
trying to make his audience laugh.
Yeah, he's trying to it's like a gotcha question, but it would only be a gotcha if you had a level of understanding of the topic like his.
Which I love about Kent. I always say that he is like a failed comedian. That's what he really wants to be. This is just what he he fell into because he couldn't do that. You can hear it in all of the jokes that he tries to deliver. I also love it when he has a failed joke. He waits for laughter, and so when
you can see him scanning around the room like, are you gonna laugh? You gonna laugh?
Did you guys like that
Awkward
one?
silence.
Did you like it?
I just love how Mark makes him pay for the jokes though. Like, it's so good.
Yeah, I would say we're gonna have to take Kent's dad joke card away. I'm sorry.
Of course we are. We know we're all related, but that doesn't mean that a strawberry turned into a man.
Oh, I never said it did.
And
I
even this chart that you have up right now on your thing, do your people realize how incredibly dumbed down that is? These lines of division are multiple millions of separations. They're not just all of a sudden you have a lizard and over here we have a rodent and then over here we have this, and it's a ridiculous thing that you're showing.
That's compressing hundreds of millions of years of evolution into a single sheet of paper.
Look at a proper chart of evolution that we've put together through genetics and through layers, like you say, that don't exist, and evidence in the fossils. There's millions and millions and millions of separations. We are down to, I think they say it's 0.1% of the animals that have existed still exist. So you're leaving.
I just want to point out he has a slide here that says it's the tree of life, and it says this is science. And it's just pointing to an animal, and he's like, "Oh, bat's a bat. That's science." And he's like, "This is religion," and it's pointing to just a random branch on the tree. And I just want to reiterate Kent's point. If you could take anything from Kent Hovind, he wants you to know that religion is bad. I'm trying to help Kent out. That's really the message he's trying to
Faith is bad.
Faith is bad. Religion is bad. Don't believe things that are religious.
Religion is not science.
Exactly. Religion is not science, and we shouldn't be.
But he named his shit creation science evangelism.
Listen, okay? Picky.
Well, I saw somebody call Kent out on this. Like, it was a student during the Berkeley debate, and Kent's response was, "I can name I can name it whatever I want. So even if it's blatantly dishonest, I'm just going to do it anyway."
Look, I can call it science. I put on a lab coat, so I'm pretty sure it's science.
Look, I can name my church the glory hole, okay? If I want.
Oh my!
The manhole.
All right, now I'm converting. What were we talking
The
about?
Hovind hole.
The Hovind hole.
I'll take you to the dentist, kid. You want to go to the dentist the Eric Hovind way?
Oh my!
Hell of a lot out. Tons and tons and tons of information. And if you go at something with not enough information or bad information, you're going to get the wrong answer every time.
All right, go ahead. We'll make sure equal time, Kent.
Okay.
Points.
Mark, I could find you tens of thousands of charts that have been made showing lines on paper with all life forms connected to a common ancestor, typically a one-celled creature like a protista or an amoeba. I agree, this is a cartoon version, but this is exactly what they teach, that the first true cells develop over thousands, billions, trillions, quadrillions, quintillions, sextillions, octillions, give you all the generations you want.
Did you just listen to what he just said? And this is what I mean. Numbers if it's past 100 or 1,000 years, these people are like, too complicated. TLDR.
It's faith. It's faith after that. It's a religion. You have to believe it because you can't see it.
And he won't give us those years because all you need, he believes in microevolution. If you give us all those years, macroevolution. Are we done here?
Well,
yeah.
Kent got mad when he called him out for the quadrillion years thing, so he's lashing out. That's why he said that.
He's acting out, yeah.
This is showing the kids that an amoeba or a protista turned into a human slowly over billions, trillions of generations. That's what it's showing them. This is not science. The purpose of this debate tonight is for you to show evidence of how any animal has ever produced anything different, let alone trillions of differences to turn to an amoeba to a human. Where is an example of one amoeba producing anything besides an amoeba or protista? Where's the scientific evidence, Mark? Religion. You got a dumb one. Change it.
And
Go ahead.
religions are bad.
That
Remember.
was your
James,
question.
you got a lot of background noise.
The
You're
question-
done that portion? Yeah, we'll leave it at that. I'm just saying those charts are extremely juvenile. They're designed to teach kindergarten students the basics so that we wouldn't have to stand up in front of them with a board 10 feet by 10 feet to show them all the divisions that we have. Even that one is very, very simplified. It only covers animals probably that are still around. But at any rate, so you always talk about this chemical evolution.
Thanks, Pat.
assume you're talking about where do the elements come from. Why do you have so much troubles understanding the
can't
elements, Kent? You know that when things burn, we can tell exactly what's in there through the spectrum of looking at the different light divisions. So we can see exactly what's in there as far as all the elements go. So we look at all the stars and we see the exact same element makeup, right up to iron. Every time we see the exact same thing. Nothing shocks us. Doesn't matter how big the star is. Even if it's billions of solar masses bigger than our sun, we still see the same thing all the way up to iron. So why is it that you call it chemical evolution when if you look at the synthetic elements, we've made them. So we know how elements are made. And we know that it takes extreme pressure and extreme heat to start injecting electrons and protons into a atom and make a new element. We've done it. Most of them are very unstable, radioactive, but we've done it. So why are you so confused about it? We see stars blow up. We know exactly how they blow up. We can calculate the pressure that they would be blowing up as when they become a nova or a supernova. Why are you so confused about that? It's still trying to say that we don't understand this chemical evolution. What about that has you really confused here?
I love that so
Let's
much.
stop there real quick. That was about 2 minutes with a couple questions in there. So Kent, go ahead. You got about 2 minutes as well.
Well, he evaded the original question and went on to a totally new topic. Where is the evidence of an amoeba ever producing anything other than an amoeba? Amoebas have a very short generation time. They
Still doesn't
get
get
born,
it.
grow up, get married, and have
Or he
kids in
doesn't
about,
want
what,
to.
20 or 30 minutes. So
He doesn't want to.
you could raise thousands of generations, tens of thousands in one human lifetime. Has any scientist ever seen an amoeba produce a non-amoeba? Mark?
No.
Well, I'm going to tell you one thing for sure, Ken. I don't think you've ever seen an amoeba grow up and get married and breed with another amoeba. So we're just going to pretend you didn't even say that. That is the most embarrassing thing I think I've ever heard somebody say. We're going to leave that alone. So Kent thinks amoebas breed with each other and have babies. So we'll leave it at that. So where I thought we were going is, it doesn't matter where we go. This is all subjects you've brought up. I've written them all down. So I thought we were going to do a question and answer. Once we were done our answer, we would move on to another question. I don't want to keep beating these things to death. No, amoebas do not turn into oak trees. They don't turn into humans. No, not how it works. And they don't interbreed.
Okay, you're right. Some single-cell creatures do breed, some do not. They simply use mitosis, meiosis. I'm familiar with that. Okay. This
Some
chart here,
single-celled animals breed.
some single-celled animals share DNA with others. Similar, we would call it breeding. Oh yeah. There's
Okay, I would
meiosis and
love
mitosis.
the next time we get together for you to show me that. So
Okay.
I thought we were going to go back and forth with questions. So I'm willing
Okay, wait a minute.
to do that. I don't want to beat stuff to death.
Okay, let's do this.
Let's
Okay,
change
let's do
it.
this. Let's allow Kent to
Hold it.
finish.
I want to rephrase my question, Your Honor. Instead of
Well,
an
I
amoeba.
asked the question.
Oh, no, you changed it. All right.
Yeah, we're not going to stay on your amoeba thing all night, are we?
Well, Mark, I got my chart here from Hope Biology textbook, an accredited school, university. Somebody wrote this book, fully accredited.
I love Gracious. They're like, this is a school. It has accreditation.
Fully accredited, yeah.
Yeah, this very accredited middle school.
from
Oh,
1976.
Well, I mean, Ken Hovind, he's the guy who has debates with Berkeley professors who quote middle school textbooks from the 1980s verbatim.
Mm-hmm.
This shows an early reptile turning into a mammal, a bird, a crocodile, a snake, a turtle. Do you believe any reptile has ever produced anything other than a reptile baby?
You think that chart you're looking at is a accurate representation of what they're trying to get across in a book that is 6 inches wide by 8 inches high? You think
Can you pause, Amy?
that's a full example that you have a
I really think that Mark should have nailed Kent on the fact that he said a reptile does it produce a non-reptile baby? Because just earlier he said something like, "Oh, we're related to strawberries, but a strawberry didn't produce a man." He's like, "Oh, I never said anything like that." Well, right here he's implying that evolution would suggest that a reptile gave birth to a baby that wasn't a reptile. And I feel like this was a missed opportunity for Mark. But, I get where he's coming from with talking about these charts because, these are ridiculously oversimplified.
Exactly. He's basically looking at charts for, I hate to say kindergartners, but like, let's just say the elementary to middle school. And he's like, look how simplified these are. And you even get to color at the end of them. We know, Kent, because these aren't for you. You're supposed to actually get these subjects by now. And what's up, ex-Hindu atheists?
I forget what you said. I think you said an early reptile turning into a mammal, and I can see it there that it does it in 2 steps. Do you think that's realistic on what we think? Or do you think we think it did it through thousands of transitional animals?
This is realistic, Mark. This is realistic of what is taught. Okay, I've got the books to prove it. Now, no, it's not realistic.
I would say that's actually a fair point from
Arizona. Okay, put as many lines on there as you want.
I honestly think that, I would say that these are accurate representations.
It's very simplified.
Form. We are not supposed to think that this became this. It's just trying to show.
Why do we have to talk about what the kids are being taught? Can't we talk about, is it actual science or not? And let's talk about the actual, science in the advanced field of evolution, not worrying about the textbooks, because that's just getting into the whole stupid taxpayer issue, which is not relevant. We're not on the textbook committee. We're not deciding the public school curriculum. It's a debate about, is there evidence for evolution or not? Scientific evidence. So scientific evidence is not this outdated, oversimplified page from a textbook. Scientific evidence is like micro photographs of embryos. How about we look at some of those?
It's the process. It's not really the body of knowledge. It's just how we whittle down theories after we frig around and find out.
Well, Kent thinks that science is it's what we know. It's the accumulated body of knowledge, not the fact that it's a process. And that science, the entire point of science is to find out what we don't know.
Exactly.
And may never know, but we're still going to try.
We're still going to keep looking.
Still going to keep on looking, and we are not going to fill in the answer when we don't know. Unlike someone over here. Oh.
Where is the evidence for any reptile ever producing anything other than a reptile baby?
Also, another thing that they do not seem to get is that, although we came from a reptilian ancestor, when you look at a lizard right now, it's not like the lizard was trying to become a human. We share an ancestor with that reptilian ancestor, just like that lizard does. The difference is that model, the way that it looks, at least physically, just seemed to work and continued fulfilling that niche. If you probably look genetically, there are lots and lots of differences between that reptilian ancestor and current reptiles of the day, because they have to have the pressure of, you know, mammals and birds who have continued in their own lineages. So
Yeah.
although aesthetically we are they look like the ancestral version, they are not. They just have fulfilled that, keep on fulfilling that.
Well, the evidence for reptiles becoming something non-reptile is, we see feathered dinosaurs. We know that the feather first evolved in the reptilian clade. And who has feathers today? Oh, birds. But we don't consider birds to be reptiles. Huh. There you go.
There you go.
Where's the evidence? Doesn't happen.
Yes, the
How
moderator
would you know
is
that?
standing for truth.
Nobody
And
ever
you
said that.
Ken, another thing that you've got to understand, and this is an answer to your question, is you've got to stop believing that in high school, in college, in university, when they teach math, when they teach English skills, when they teach science, physics, these aren't the endings of education. At that point, you go on and you learn full out math. You spend the next 8 years of your life learning about math or science or physics or evolution or whatever the case may be. These books you're talking about, like they're the gospel, they're introductions to people. Even if it's a university, it's still an
Basic primers,
introduction course. It usually, my daughter just went through to become a veterinarian.
Yeah, it's
It's
been all
usually a
downhill
month or
for
two
Kenty.
spent on each subject as the introduction, and then she takes 4 to 8 years becoming a veterinarian in animal health. These are introductions. These aren't the be all and end all of our education. I hope you realize that our specialists go on and they spend their entire
You mean there's
lives learning
more
stuff.
known than what is in the middle school
Wanna make
textbooks?
because it's in a
Go
high
figure.
school. No.
Go ahead, Kent.
Okay. Mark, let me dumb it down, make it real simple for you here. Once again, where is the evidence of any reptile
Becoming a
producing
non-reptile.
babies that were not reptile? Because
Well,
That would actually be evidence of natural selection. Like if evolution worked the way it did in Pokemon, like it was just like womp 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 womp, and then
Right.
they became a different animal. I mean, that'd be cool, but that's not what we see. We see gradual, steady changes over time.
Yeah, show me the first speaker of Italian. When did a parent speak Latin, but their baby spoke Italian? It didn't happen. There's no one point where that happened, yet change does occur over time.
Show me a Hovind producing a non-Hovind.
Exactly.
go.
We have one Hovind. I've never seen a Hovind produce another Hovind.
fine. This reptile turned into a bird and a mammal on the chart. Whether there's 10 billion lines in there and 10 trillion steps, I don't know. But where's the evidence of it even going one step?
Well,
Just
Kent,
one step.
you don't believe in fossils and you don't believe in genetics. So how could I possibly say anything to you that you're going to accept? You don't
Yeah.
even believe that.
Fossil.
You don't even
Mark.
believe that stars form and blow up. So how am I supposed to convince you that a fossil is real? You don't think fossils are still making themselves.
Mark, I believe in fossils. We have a collection of probably 50,000 fossils here in our museum.
No,
We
you
believe in
don't.
Fossils. We
You
believe
don't.
fossils.
I was gonna say 50,000.
And you don't have a museum.
Yeah, that's
I think fossils are
very loose definition.
died.
Yeah.
This was a clam that died. Could I
You're
prove it had
telling-
children? No.
That's
Could I
not-
prove it had
that's
different
not a
children? No.
clam.
Clams are still having babies today, and they always grew up to be clams.
It's like he found
Clams
a
lay
rock.
eggs.
Clam producing a non-clam.
They don't give birth to babies. They lay eggs.
Fossils are going to count as evidence for your dumb religion. Mark, come on.
You just told me that no
religion
fossils
is
are gonna
dumb.
be made now
You
because
heard
they
it from
won't be
Kent.
made under the
Yep.
the flood. So no, you do not believe in fossils. Fossilization is just the replacement of bone with minerals, Kent. You just
I
told me at the
understand.
beginning of this.
Was that his attempt at a face palm, or was he fixing his glasses?
No new fossils in the future. We have
No,
made
but
our last fossil.
fossils are forming today. I'd like to see the evidence of, certainly not in the mass graves like we find all over the world, with tens of thousands, maybe even millions of animals buried in one big mass grave. You'd almost think they died in Noah's flood if you didn't know better.
No.
We have
Yes.
clams that
If
are
you didn't
petrified
know better,
closed on
you
top
would
of
say
Mount
it was Noah's
Everest.
flood. I
Ought to
agree.
indicate something to somebody with one functioning brain cell. This thing,
Yeah,
died
that
was
used to
buried
be
off the
oceanic
whole
crust.
Where
But it got
I
lifted
got-
up.
forming in any
I
number.
got your back, Kent. Gotcha. Right
Yeah.
here. I got one functioning brain cell. We gotcha.
They can form. Where is it happening? And if you found a fossil and this is your evidence for evolution, you couldn't prove any fossil that in any museum had any children that lived. Could you?
Kent, do you believe that that clam in Noah's Ark made its way, in Noah's flood, made its way to the top of Mount Everest? If that is the case, how do you explain corals that we find at thousands of feet of elevation that we know, coral, we know how fast it grows? So how do you explain that? Did that wash up there too? And
I just
coral?
want to say coral are amazing. If you don't know about coral, they are eukaryotic animals. They're multicellular animals, and yet they cluster
Eukaryotic.
to get together. And so you have almost a bunch of multicellular organisms sticking together to create these bigger, just like in a man of war. A man of war, it looks like
That's
this one animal.
A colony,
It's actually
right? Yeah.
exactly. They're a colonial species. It's actually a bunch of animals stuck together, and it just shows you that it fractals. A lot of people say humans are a colonial species on the same thing and act in the same way.
That's why, like when Atheist Jr in his debate with Kent, and other people have done it too, but they point to where it was observed when when a certain species of algae began to become multicellular. Of course, he's just going to say, "Oh, it's just a colony. They're not forming a new animal. It's just a few single cells working together." But that's not the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they can't live on their own. They can't break off and live on their own.
Right. It is true multicellularity forming, and we've seen it. And that's the biggest step in evolution. That's like the hurdle, is jumping from single cell to multi-cell. And it's happened a few times that we know of, but
yeah,
once you
he
get that,
kept
you
asking
can
me.
have
He kept asking me about algae reproduction, as if they had to start over from a single cell each time, that means that evolution isn't true. And I explained to Kent, well, Kent, you started as a single cell and became multicellular. That's, you don't like when a woman becomes pregnant, when the egg is fertilized, you don't instantly get a multicellular baby formed. You start with a single cell. So, and he kept asking me this over and over again.
It's like, okay, so your multicellular algae forms, then it has to have another one form right next to it so that it can get married and have kids, right?
Right.
Exactly. And then it becomes an algae sitcom. It's the whole family.
Yeah, it's
big
Gilligan's Island.
All washed up onto mountain ranges. How about the cliffs of Dover? How do you explain that?
Well, we got 5 topics going again, Donnie. Here we go again.
Nope,
See,
same
Mark
one. Elevation.
Help me, Donnie. Help me.
Mark, you've avoided my question 4 times. I'm going to try one more time. Where is the
your daddy
scientific
and what does he
evidence
do?
of any reptile producing anything other than a reptile?
There is none. That is not what we're talking about. Once again, it doesn't work like your God does with magic.
So it sounds to me like all you will take as evidence would be a cave painting or who knows what. I've already told you, Ken. I've answered it. You will not accept fossils.
It's just like when you give them, if you get a bunch of creationists in a room with a bunch of skulls and tell them to put them in order, you know, what do you think is ape? Which
Human or ape.
and I'd say different ape, but they just believe in
Primate,
ape. But just and what will happen is they will all give them a dozen. They will all know, you know, like 3 of them definitely are this form of ape, and they're like 3 of them are definitely, you know, are human. And then maybe another 3 we're pretty sure are human, another 3 are pretty sure are this other primate. And then they get about this half dozen that almost none of the creationists can agree on. Something is here, something is there. They have to make this great until you basically get that gradient back of evolution.
And you will not accept genetics. So I have nothing more for you. I don't have any pictures
Good day,
of
sir.
a lizard turning into a mammal. I don't have pictures. I may be able to find you some cave paintings, but your problem is you will not accept evidence. You will not look down at your little sand toy and realize that it still hasn't turned into rock. And it won't in a million years. That's a fact. So what I'm saying, Kent, is we've beaten this one to death. It's your talking point. I've asked you a lot of questions that I want explained, and you're doing exactly what I knew you would do, is dodge everything and keep going back to one point. I brought up chemical evolution. I've brought up a lot of questions for you, and you just want to keep going back to that. So I'm telling you, I have
Dogs produce dogs.
You will accept. None.
Thank you, sir.
Zero.
Why do we teach the kids then that reptiles turned into birds and mammals? That is what's taught in schools. Mark, do you believe this chart teaches the general idea of what's true, that a bird came from a reptile over millions of years, trillions, quadrillions, whatever you want, give all the time you want? Do you believe in any amount of time a reptile turns to something non-reptile? And the purpose of this debate, the title is, where's the evidence for this? You've offered no evidence. Genetics is not going to provide evidence. Genetics could provide evidence that they have a common designer. It doesn't prove they're related or changed.
Sure it does. It's exactly what does it. It's how we know so sure. It's how we started off with retroviruses.
Isn't that a cop-out, though? If you're saying we all have, he calls it a common designer. But if we all look in the genetic record and it's all pointing towards a shared genome, doesn't that mean it's a common ancestor?
It could be the same guy wrote the code, Amy. Microsoft PowerPoint and Microsoft Word have X number of similarities, and you know, I bet the spell checker in Microsoft PowerPoint is the same one in Microsoft Word. That proves they evolved from MS-DOS.
In my debate with Kent, I brought up this point because I told him that genetics is evidence for common ancestry, but Kent will just say that it's evidence for a common designer. And I told him that, that he's really just saying that. He doesn't really have evidence of it. It's just something he says that sounds kind of like smart because it has the word common in it also. But so I asked him, what's your evidence that genetics is, instead of being evidence of common ancestry, evidence of a common designer? And his answer was that every farmer on earth knows that cows produce cows.
Yeah, he's got to go back to the hit.
That is the evidence that genetics proves a common designer, that farmers know that cows produce.
So as much as I love husbandry, I don't like the mental gymnastics to go from one subject to the other is intense. So I would like to thank Kent Hovind for his Olympic.
He's working his ass off for you. Hey, Jerry.
But yeah, what is up, Comrade Jerry? For them, it's like a flat earther. for them to present their own model would almost be blasphemous. Now you're getting into the logistics of God.
Yeah, it could be picked apart and destroyed if they did that. So why would they go through all the trouble, right?
This stuff isn't just one layer thick. There's
That's what she
hundreds of
said.
layers that prove
I think.
evolution. You won't accept them. So I'm admitting to you, I will never convince you of evolution, but I expect children in school after grade 1 or 2 to also understand their chemistry classes, to also understand the biology classes, to also understand geography classes, put all the sciences together and understand that when we say something about genetics or fossils, that it is something that there's people out there, very serious people, have put aside an entire lifetime of learning to learn about. They don't just stand back with little sand toys and make things up that sound good. These are people that spend their lives, and there's thousands of them doing it, arguing with each other until they come up with the right answer. So I'm saying to you, stop beating this to death. You know I'm not going to be able to say anything to you. What could I possibly say? You don't accept genetics. You don't accept fossils. We're done. There's nothing more I can say to you.
Okay,
So move on,
Mark.
ask a new question, entirely new thing
Mark.
that has something to do with the hundreds of things you've brought up.
Okay, Mark. I do accept the fact
Can you
there
pause
are
it?
billions or trillions of fossils in the ground. I accept that. I've dug them out, many of them myself. We got a huge collection here. I accept there are fossils. I do
Huge
accept
collection.
you could not prove any of them had children. You certainly could not prove a fossil found in the bone you found in the dirt had children that were different. Many people raise reptiles today.
Just keep the broken record going.
Tortoises, there are tens of
And then back to a
thousands
script.
being raised by people who specialize in this, herpetologists.
I think Mark
anybody
has done a
alive
really
today
great job, though, in this
ever
debate.
seen
I have to
any
say.
reptile produce a non-reptile? And the answer is no, but you dodged it 6 times. Nobody's ever seen that. But you believe if we give it enough time, reptiles would turn to a bird. That's what you believe. That's what the kids are taught. You want them taught that in school, don't you, Mark?
Mark's face, he looks like he wants to kill Kent right now.
Proper biology and evolution. Of course we want it. We want it taught that way.
That's not
But
biology.
But Kent, you're a person that wants to try to tell your people that a 2-headed snake or a 5-headed snake is an example of evolution messing up. No, come on. You don't know what they are. Do you not know what Siamese twins are and conjoined animals that they started out as 2 embryos and joined in the womb or the egg? Come on, you don't bring stuff like this up unless you're just trying to fool simple-minded people. It's such a dishonesty. It's getting bad. It really is. But go ahead, let's move on. I cannot prove evolution to you as far as fossils go or as far as DNA goes. But you've brought up all kinds of other things to prove that evolution is wrong. You brought up chemical evolution. You've brought up tons, and even right down to how do I know what's right and wrong as proof of that evolution didn't exist, that we had to have a creator. So you're the one that's taken this off into tons of different directions. So I just ask you, out of all those things that you opened up in your opening statement, ask a question so I can try to answer it.
Okay. I said, and I've said thousands of times, and I'll continue to say it, the word evolution is a slippery word with many different meanings or levels or stages. You'd have to
here he goes.
cosmic evolution to
It's
explain
really
where
not. You know, he's going to go into his many different types of evolution, but there really is what
He
I
can't
would
help
say
himself.
the classical definition of evolution, which is biological evolution, which the theory of natural selection. And yet, yes, there are other colloquial terms where things evolve. But the funny thing about that is I feel like acknowledging any of them exists is admitting evolution exists.
Evolution, it's something where you can define it and explain it in a way that is simple, but then it's a topic where it's incredibly deep and hard to understand at the level when you get into genetics and the really base level stuff. But evolution, there are 2 types of evolution. microevolution and macroevolution. Not 6, not 5. There's only 2. And microevolution is just variation within species. Macro is variation between species. That's it. It's pretty simple. And there's not
it's the same
kinds.
process. It's just a matter of time.
See, we can't use kinds because Kent always wants to compare kinds to species. But the problem with kind is that species has phylum, genus, order, all these other levels surrounding it. Kind does not. Kent they want to talk about borrowing Christian morality. How about borrowing the terminology of Linnaean classification? Because since kind is just by itself, they move the goalposts so a kind can represent family, order, genus, whatever they need at the moment. But again,
it can
because
mean
the
whatever
Bible
they
says
need
kind,
it to
he
mean.
has to use the word kind because the Bible says it.
And when you or when anyone would ask him about cats, like how would you separate a big cat from a small cat, like the house cat from a tiger? Is it just that they are 2 different types of cat kind? Because I really feel like at that point
He thinks they're all. I think he thinks they're all the
species,
same kind. The cat kind. I've heard him say.
even though they can't breed with one another.
Even though they can't breed anymore, yeah.
Very dumb.
You get time, space, matter. Where do you get matter to even start the evolution process? Where did the rock come from? Where did the hydrogen gas come from? Where did the stars do have material, and you can see.
Well, we can explain that. In the beginning, the universe had hydrogen, helium, and a little bit of lithium. And it took until the death of first and second generation stars to supernova, forming in those explosions the heavier elements so that we could get carbon like the ones in our body.
It with a spectroscope, I understand completely. But we never see this matter forming out of nothing. You guys have to start with nothing.
No one's claiming that.
God, outside of our time, space, matter, created everything. I think
Space-time,
man can take
not
dirt out of the
time and
ground,
space and matter.
separate
Space-time, one
turn
thing.
it into a car. I think man can do that. Get iron ore. I don't think the iron ore can do it by itself, but I think an intelligent mind can take the iron ore and turn it into a car. I believe that. You guys want to take the iron ore and turn it into a car without a man doing it. You want to take the dirt. God can take dirt and make atom.
We can make cars with automated machines.
Just by itself. That you give the dirt the characteristics of God, able to do things. Where did matter come from? Where did time come from? Where did space come from? And if there was a Big Bang 13.772 billion years ago, what was before that?
We don't know.
It was energy. There was no matter. There was no.
Where did the energy come from? There was give me a ball of energy. Would you give me a
Quantum
gallon?
fluctuations.
Meter in your case, Canadian.
It's all around you right now. Anything that's above 0 degrees Kelvin is energy.
Can you pause it, Amy?
Energy, and we see energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, asking, well, where did all the energy in the universe come from? For the Big Bang, they ask this as if the universe is so huge now, and if matter is made up of energy, E equals mc squared. Where could all this energy come from? But if you remember that the entire universe was localized in a tiny, smaller than we can even imagine point, you would need an extremely small amount of energy for that. So you have, stuff like quantum fluctuations and virtual particles popping in and out of existence even today. All you would need is a small amount of energy that could kickstart the entire freaking universe.
Oh, I mean, you can have infinite energy, but as you know, energy takes up absolutely no space whatsoever. So you can have an infinite amount of energy taking up no space. And from that, you can get an entire universe of matter, because energy and matter are 2 manifestations of the same fundamental phenomenon.
Right. You had an infinitely dense point with energy, but it was such an incredibly small point that you don't need the amount of energy contained in our modern universe.
Right.
Of course, I could be completely wrong, because even talking about what was before the Big Bang is a completely malformed question. It's
It-
ridiculous
it's
to ask that.
because there's so much that we don't understand about it, but at least as atheists, we're upfront about that and say that there's so much more we have to learn about it. But the
That's still the
theists
answer.
are the ones who are saying that they have all the answers. They actually know it, when we're the ones who are least honest and saying, no, we
Yeah.
know how much we don't know about the subject.
Yeah, we say that T equals 0 at the very earliest point of the Big Bang. And that's our model that we're working with. But, it might be confusing. It might seem silly to someone like Kent. And I can understand that. But the fact is that this model has produced exquisitely accurate predictions, and it works. So unless they have a better one,
Which they don't.
this is what we're going to go with. Of course not, So just, you can't, trying to undermine the Big Bang Theory by saying, oh, well, what happened before that? Well, I would just say, well, where did your God come from?
Yeah, and he's very upfront that he has no idea where his God came from. He'll even tell you that, but
Also, we may
he doesn't
know,
have to answer that.
we may one day understand where or before the Big Bang. That will not change that the Big Bang happened. We have evidence of the Big Bang, and their basic denial of it doesn't change that they need to offer evidence for another model, their own, if they don't believe it, especially someone like Kent, who is a young Earth creationist. But Kill Doggy says, and he bringing up basically the same point that Atheist Jr was bringing up before, which is it's such vague language. It is such, in my opinion, shady language. So they use words that they don't define and can be manipulated.
Mean whatever they need.
I find this not only with Kent Hovind, I find this in apologetics with like the Kalam, and contingency arguments, where they can move words like being around.
Mind, agent.
And what is up, Wesley? Send in hello.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Look, we are sending love to all
Hallelujah.
of our atheist brothers and sisters.
Hands on a cock.
We are talking, is there scientific evidence for evolution? In fact, hey, Wesley, I would be interested to know. I mean, Christian or not, come on. Evolution is a scientific fact, right? Team science here we got going. That is the question.
I'm sure he's on board, Amy.
I'm sure.
Going back and forth between matter and back to energy, and matter going back to energy. I don't understand why this has you so confused. And that's what I was talking about when it came down to this chemical evolution that you talk about. Stars make elements up to iron.
You are a little
and
confused.
We can make elements past iron, and we do it with pressure and heat. So why are you so confused on how a star blowing up or going supernova, collapsing in on itself with horrendous amounts of pressure and heat, couldn't start to form new elements?
Well, where did you said matter energy can be go back and forth? I understand that you can burn the gasoline and get energy and power and stuff like that.
No, that is not an example of matter turning into energy. Oh, good Lord. Kent, that is
wait.
A kid in kindergarten would not believe that is an example of matter turning into energy or energy turning into matter. But a good example of matter turning into energy.
I just want to make sure
would be a bomb.
And I understand you're saying he's wrong, but let's just allow Kent to, I guess, defend himself on that point. Go ahead, Kent. Then we'll hand it back to
as expected, we are dancing around with 50 different topics. The purpose of the debate is for you to provide evidence, scientific evidence, that evolution is true. That
and Kent always does this. He complains when they bring up other things like this.
There is such a thing. You can follow the internet about chemical evolution.
What's that?
Kent, he always complains about this when people go bring these things, But see, Kent is the one who brings all these topics up with his 6 levels of evolution. He's the one who brings up chemical evolution. Then when you press him for an explanation of it, then he's like, "Oh, that's off topic. Why are we talking about this?" But he's the one who opens the door to all these things, and then
Right.
he's the
Well,
one who mentions the Bible and brings up God and all this. But if you start talking a lot about that, he's like, "This isn't. We're not here to talk about the Bible." Well,
Yeah.
we'll do another debate to talk about that. But he's always the one who starts with that shit.
Yeah, well, the reason that Kent, the reason that he has the 6 levels of evolution is because he has his own, religious, biblical literalism creationism theory that starts with the creation of the universe, and he is trying to make this false dilemma between pitting creationism and evolution theory against each other. But the thing is that biological evolution starts with animals on Earth.
Yeah.
So that's billions of years after. That's after the universe has already existed for some time. So he has to tack on this other stuff to force evolution to start with the beginning of the universe, so it'll line up with his theory.
Right. Because his theory is all encompassing.
That's why But he literally starts every debate by bringing up 6 different topics.
Yeah,
and then he complains about it.
He brought up morality too.
Goes off into 7 different rabbit trails, and then complains when you try to put out the fires that he created. Yeah, they address.
Yeah, rabbit trails and glory holes.
Oh my!
Lots of stuff on it. How do we get these organic molecules? In order to get life to even started, you have to get. And you said you can fuse up to iron. I'm very glad you know that, Mark. How do you get helium? How do you get gold, silver, and platinum out of iron?
He already explained that. He just said that.
Stars
in
the supernova.
We
already
know that.
For the record, you're saying you can get gold out of iron. Is that right, Mark? Is that what you said?
No. Like in a gigantic explosion, all of the heavier.
He's trying to make it sound like alchemy.
Yeah, exactly. As if
we're just
sitting there trying to make one chemical into another. No.
Well, we have laboratories where we can make 1 million gold atoms in a day. 1 million atoms of gold, which is not. It sounds like a lot, but it would take like 65 to the 13th power million years to actually get like a full gold bar doing that. So yeah, we can make
whole gold brick. Yeah.
Yeah, but
just might be a little while.
Not very fast, but we can make it.
It's like trying to mine Bitcoin with a 20-year-old laptop. You can do it. It'll just take you like 800 years to make $1.
And if you just joined us, we are watching Is There Scientific Evidence for Evolution? We are watching the doctor, very much having a PhD, doctor, definitely.
Doctor, give me the news.
Yes, exactly. And what is pseudonym?
Dr. Frankenfurter.
Oh, now there is someone I would like to actually get some wisdom from. And what is up? Yeah, I mean, hey, on a similar topic, God entered my body as a body, my same size. I like to feel that God enters my body very slowly up and down on good days.
Kent, do you know the difference between all the elements? Because you're calling chemicals and elements the same thing, which they are not. Okay, so let's make this clear. We can turn any atom, we can move it up the periodic chain by adding electrons and protons. So where are you misunderstanding this? It's so easy to understand how we do it, and that is how we take uranium and turn it into other elements up the chain. We bombard it with electrons and protons, and we build new elements. What do you mean we can't turn iron into gold? Of course we can, Kent.
Also, this is like a heads I win, tails, you lose scenario, because if we can create it, then it is, we are being able to design just like God. And if we can't do it, then this is the mystery of God that's too hard. So either way, they say it's from God.
Well, even if we can do it, we're borrowing God's iron to do it or whatever. We have to get our own iron.
God had to make the iron originally so you could do that with, right?
Yeah, we're no matter what, we're presupposing that God exists and that Kent is always right.
Is it economical? No, we have gold in our earth. And the reason we have so little of it is because it has to be made in supernovas. But we find a ton of iron, a ton of stuff that comes out of stars, but we don't find the stuff that you'd have to have these very high pressure explosions.
Yeah, we can't pray for the iron
as
to
you
just
go up
become
chemically,
gold.
you'll notice that there's less and
It's only
less
made
of it.
for such a short amount of
It's
time
harder to
in the
make.
supernova.
So yes, of course, iron is going to be very abundant. Look at all the asteroids flying around. They're all made out of iron. They're all iron-based. They're metals. What's confusing about this?
Mark, they're not all iron. They're
All
stone,
of it.
nickel, and stuff like that. But that, okay,
You're
I understand your point.
confusing what he's saying.
And the debate is you're supposed to give evidence for evolution. You got off on cosmic evolution, chemical. I just point out there are 6 different meanings to the word, and we can talk about that another time. But as far as macroevolution, nobody's ever seen any animal right there, or organic. That's another one. How do you get life started?
As Aaron, I believe it was Aaron, maybe it was Gutsick. Someone was pointing out the other day that Darwin's finches are actually a textbook example of macroevolution, of populations diversifying.
Of course it is. But they're still finches.
Seen any animal produce
they're still
offspring
finches.
other than its kind. Nobody's ever seen a
It
reptile.
has a beak.
not
It
reptile.
didn't get a machine gun.
Exactly. It needed a machine gun and a machete, and then you would know that evolution is true.
It's still a bird, Amy.
It's still a bird. It's still a beak.
Still a bird. Bird
Still
gave
a
birth to a
Hovind.
bird. Look, I've never seen a Hovind give birth to a Hovind. Anything but a Hovind.
Nobody's ever seen a reptile produce a non-reptile. Never. Lots of people are raising reptiles, and when they have babies, they always turn out
Really
to
is
be
such a dumb
reptiles.
talking point.
We got a
If
tortoise
you
here. We're
did-
hoping to find a Mrs. Tortoise for him. I would be willing to bet you $1,000, Mark.
Yeah.
You can find a mama tortoise.
But not
Like-
tax-free $1,000.
Who's the it's a meme like that Kent is fine with the fact that the bulldog came from a non-bulldog. Like he'll even tell you that. Did the bulldog come from a non-bulldog? Well, yeah.
Oh, and creationists love using dogs. Let's just point out, because first of all, dogs are freaking amazing. But they are the textbook example of artificial selection, because they love trying to look at that and looking like all these different types of dogs. And well, yeah, that came from the fact that we bred dogs, we selected for a trait and bred the absolute crap out of each one of these different types of dogs until there are Chihuahuas and Great Danes. But once
and
again,
the Greyhound came from a dog that was not a Greyhound at one point.
exactly. They all have a lineage to one or two wolves, just like there are
Asiatic wolves.
few, lineages of cats. But they're very specifically, dogs are the rarity. They are the example of artificial selection that is not an intelligently designed force in the natural world.
For daddy tortoise, when they have babies,
Oh,
they will
daddy.
be tortoises. I'll bet you $10,000 they'll be tortoises.
If
Okay,
an
let me jump
animal,
in, Mark. I know you want to respond. I know you want to respond. We're at an hour and a half. We've gone about 10 minutes over on the discussion because it's been so fun and engaging.
Let's take
We do have a
audience
ton of,
questions.
and we do have a
Let-
ton of audience questions. So just one second.
Let
We got
me
a ton of
answer
audience
that one.
questions. Okay,
can I answer that?
I
Yeah,
love
well,
that.
I was going to say we're going into closing statements. So, Mark, why don't you take up to 5
Look how
minutes to
happy he
answer
looks.
that, and also
Okay.
make
Kent, he looks so happy to be
Okay,
getting out of there.
right
What
now,
is so
and I will
funny?
tell everyone
Look,
watch.
I'm never gonna hate on a prop comedian, okay? Who am I? Nonetheless, I just want to point out, is that the job
SpongeBob
that
and
you're trying to be, Kent? Is that who you are? Yeah, exactly,
Matt Powell's his ventriloquist.
I have on the list. There's a certain number of props. I want to get an apple because Applegate is very important for all the Abrahamic religions. That damn fucking rib woman and the talking snake, and then everything went downhill. And I'd also like to get a SpongeBob because, I have a hammer. I got a squishy hammer.
Hawaiian shirt.
So, yeah. I don't think I have a Hawaiian shirt. I feel like I do need to get a Hawaiian t-shirt. Would it be so? I know you're not going to wear a Hawaiian t-shirt during the debate because he would probably leave, but how funny would it be if you just had glasses and a Hawaiian t-shirt? Oh, James, if wishes could be fishes.
Yeah.
Okay. If an animal ever gave birth to something that wasn't its kind,
It would be
I
Futurama.
would believe in God. And I swear to you, if tomorrow morning I turned on the news and a cow gave birth to a deer,
It would
something
be
that kind of even looked like a cow,
definitely a new data point.
I would be, no, everything's wrong. Everything we know is
Sup,
wrong.
pseudonym?
We must be in the end
And
times.
look, even
this
Kent's
cannot
got a
happen.
fan.
That is not evolution. Nobody thinks that is evolution. I can't even imagine how Kent can say stuff like that and then shave in the morning looking in the mirror, because it is absolutely ridiculous.
Got him.
Nobody thinks that. Those
Yeah,
charts he
religion.
shows are all designed to be kindergarten level charts.
Yes, exactly.
You've got this
Exactly. And I feel bad because Mark has been, it's not that these charts are wrong, it's that these
grossly
charts,
oversimplified.
once again, you read them and then you go have nap time. And so I completely understand Kent's problem with trying to figure them out. But, I'm sure with a good old juice box, we can help Kent learn. Randolph says, I have a few colorful shirts. A few people have compared my dressing style to Kent Hovind's. Oh, man. That would be funny. You should absolutely wear a Hawaiian style shirt if you ever debate Kent Hovind, because you could just put exactly, Randolph. Just say, what do you mean? This is what I normally wear. And that's right. I should pin. I'll pin it up there. I do want to thank Atheist Jr for joining us tonight. You should
It's been a blast.
Go check out. I feel like there is a lot of fantastic non-believer content. Do you want non-believer content that also takes whacks at really despicable people while also being funny? Well, then you should go check out Atheist Jr.'s channel.
Are you guys aware of I just hit a subscriber milestone on my channel? Did you know that?
4,000, right?
Yes, 4,000 subscribers.
4,000 subscribers, AJ. I remember you first came and you barely had 100, and we are just so happy that your channel's taken off because you deserve it.
Yeah, exactly.
I had 100, and I think January 2020. January 2020. I had 100 subscribers, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just
it's just a testament to the community, the non-believer community.
I mean, what James
and hard work.
Yeah, us helping each other out, and a lot of work, a lot of time put into cultivating a channel like that, building an audience.
I have to give credit to Peter too for helping me, but I feel like I fostered a really great community, and they're so supportive, especially my patrons. I think Patreon is the greatest invention ever.
Hells yeah. No, Patreon is amazing, and I just have to send a shout out to the non-believer community because we don't schism. I know that I sound like a broken book, but a broken record, but
You sound like a Bible.
well, we just don't have different denominations, and so because of that, we don't need to fight over all these dumb canon battles that I'm sure are very fun for all the Christians and the Muslims. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
but
can.
I actually have to get going. My my headphone batteries are gonna die soon, but I do have to get going actually. But it's been a ton of fun.
It's been a blast, AJ.
I
Thanks so
will
much
say,
for coming
do
on.
you want to say any final words before you leave? A final shout out, people who don't know what you do on the channel, what you do, and then if you'd like, is there scientific evidence for evolution?
Okay. Well, yes, I just had a new video come out today. It was a collaboration between me and Godless Engineer, where we tackled a Kent Hovind video that was 6 evidences of a young Earth, and we both took 3 each. And I did a live stream, I think 2 days ago, that was all about butterflies and moth evolution, reacting to Kent's Whack and Atheist. And that video is already sitting at like 5,000 views, which, is awesome.
Yeah.
I was surprised at that because the good thing about, there are channels that have a lot of subscribers, but the view counts on their videos don't really line up.
Yeah.
But my viewers, they watch all the content I put out. So I love
viewers.
the community that I've fostered. But I think Mark did a great job. I think he really whooped Kent. I thought there were so many great moments in the debate. I especially loved his point where he was saying that Kent, you're not going to accept genetics and you're not going to accept fossils. We're done. What do you want me to say? Kent says that he was dodging the question, but if Kent literally won't accept the answer, then what is the point? And you guys, I don't know if you guys are going to finish watching this, but I really like his ending statement, because Kent, over and over again, it's just like, do you believe? Every single question is just, do you believe that these 2 things are related? And it's like, yeah. Common ancestry, everything's related. Oh, okay. Do you believe that these other 2 things are related? Yeah. Yes. Common ancestry. Okay. Do you believe that the 2 previous things I mentioned are related?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Like
do you believe
Professor
that
Dave,
these other 2? It's just over and over and over again. Just catch.
Do you believe you came from a strawberry? Are you related to a strawberry, Dave?
Kent.
Yes.
Go.
Yes.
Shut up, Kent. Go choke on a strawberry, okay? All right. I'm out. I will see you guys later. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you so much, AJ.
Thank you so much for being here,
man.
AJ. And like we have been saying, you should go check out AJ's channel. If I could say once again, reiterate what the secret sauce is, it's that AJ goes at topics, theological topics, especially theologians who are assholes, and he is both honest and fucking funny about it, which is, I think, is always the freaking secret sauce, because if you can make people laugh, you can tend to get them on your side. So you should go check his channel out. I do want to thank him for bringing this fantastic debate to us. We have AJ's channel in the description. I will also put the debate in the description if you want to see the full debate. I think what we will do is send the link into channel for the open mic. We'll do a short open mic, and we will watch as much of the debate until people come on. And if not, we'll just watch a little bit more of the debate and then head to the Discord. But we have been skeptic and ranting on, is there scientific evidence for evolution? We wanted to make sure you got to see the other side. and they did at least get the full debate out. I think they're about to go into the Q&A. So, but that was fun. And I will queue up that link. And while I queue up that link.
Thanks, Randolph. Randolph's got that link for the debate. Or no, for Atheist Jr.'s video with Godless Engineer. So that'll be good. I'll be sure to check that out.
And
as I'm preparing for my own debate.
Another great
He is a
non-believer.
a really good channel there. He's gone toe to toe with John Maddox before. That was a fun debate.
Rando says, I normally wear my colorful shirts when I join live debates, interviews. Hey, you got to dress snappy.
He does have colorful shirts, doesn't he?
I've worn this a million times, but for evolution, I mean, I had to wear dinosaurs, clearly. Because when you eat dinosaur chicken nuggets, ladies and gentlemen, you are eating dinosaur-shaped dinosaurs. It happens. It's okay. Think about it. And okay, I'm going to get the link ready for the open mic. If anyone would like to join us, we could actually continue watching it, even if someone joins, but we'll let people join. And we'll go on for a little while before we head to the Discord after show. We are Skeptic and Ranting on Is There Scientific Evidence for Evolution? Having fun. That's right. We were watching the one and only 15-foot whale.
Single-celled amoeba or whatever he's showing there in one branch turning into a starfish, going off the other way, turning into a lizard, and then going up the center and turning into a fish. Of course, that looks ridiculous. If anyone out there really wants to jar their belief system a little bit, go look at a proper evolutionary chart. Go to Aaron Ra's site. He has put so much work into laying out the physiology of all the animals. It's an incredible.
Absolutely.
You can right there, ladies and gentlemen.
All there, you can see it.
Non-believers.
He's been spending years on this. Do you think the guy that put together Kent's 10 animal evolution chart spent years on that? No, and I don't even honestly think that Aaron will be able to, or Aaron will be able to finish what he has started. It will probably go on for generations as we learn and becomes more and more understood. And yes, stuff will be shuffled around and things will be moved as we learn. As we find new fossils, we will shuffle things around. But to look at things at the most basic level to try to make it sound silly, like showing your sand thing with sand in there that has different specific gravities to show that things will settle out in layers. No, they don't, Kent. If they settled out in layers, we would not have the trees and all the bacteria that made the oil 7 kilometers down.
And I have looked at the
trees. Gladly come down there and have you show me in 1 year how you could hold trillions and trillions of tons of plant matter down 7 kilometers, cover it in water, have it stay there while dirt gently flowed over the top of this and turned to rock.
Sounds like a fun debate.
There's just so many things that you try to take it down to the most basic of levels so that it's easy to understand. And people, I get it. Science is extremely hard to understand. Everything that I talked about tonight, I don't even know 1 or 2% about it. I try to learn what I can about 5 or 6 topics, but there just isn't enough.
Can you imagine a young Earth
creationist
saying that?
Specialize in that many different fields. And that's where the dishonesty comes from. Kent comes in, he starts with these talking points, tries to make it sound like he's educated in this stuff. And you've just got to believe me. These people that do this, it's lifetimes of work through generations.
He has a lot of experience peddling.
It's all been adding up and adding up and adding up. And, you go back to what we believed 2,000 years ago to what we believe today into what we'll believe in 100 years. Yes, it's going to change. We are constantly learning. Science is not at its pinnacle where we have nothing more to learn. We still have lots to learn. There'll still be lots of changes, but I guarantee you evolution will be around in 1,000 years. If man is still here in 2,000 years, it'll still be around. It'll just be easier to explain And we will
Evolution, like gravity, is a force of nature, kind of grinding down.
It's not going anywhere.
a lot more fossils. But yeah, you know, Ken didn't even talk about
Unlike religion.
coral up in mountains, but he'll bring up the fact that there's a clam on top of Mount Everest, completely, you know, denying tectonic movement that we completely understand. You know, he brought up so many things tonight and then blamed me for it. You know, where does all the stuff, he calls it, come from to make all the different layers? We
The
see mountains
stuff.
breaking down. We see sand blowing
the
over
technical
from the Sahara
term, by the
Desert and
way.
making it all the way over
Scientific term. Yeah.
to the Americas. What do you mean, Kent? Where does it come
Can I
from?
have
Have you
a
never been in
pound
a
of
house
it,
that there's
please?
constant settlement of dust?
Do you
You
want
know,
that
all this stuff
rare or
is
medium
so
well?
obvious. We got plates smashing together, land
Thin slice or thick.
and
Thinly
wearing down.
sliced,
That's
yes.
where it comes from. It runs down with water. We have rain, but it takes millions and millions of years.
Okay, that's Mark's.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
I agree. AJ said he had a pretty bombing closing statement. And, you know, I think Mark did well in this debate.
He did well, yeah.
I thought some people were saying you know, some of the language games, sometimes it's hard with the lingo. But overall, I think that he batted down a lot of Kent's nonsense. Trying to think, maybe we'll get Pat in
Religion
here,
is going bye-bye.
and then
It's
optionally
fading out, yeah.
exactly. Well, I think
It's on the way
we
out.
oftentimes have religious people that come on here and say, "Oh, people are just jam packing into, you know, the churches," which I feel like the data is saying all the opposite things. Generally speaking, they're not showing up in their pews.
Only in economically depressed areas where the education levels are not where they should be, and the people are being subjugated.
Yeah.
Otherwise, religion's dying.
And all right, I think that Kent's closing. I think we get the.
I think we got it. Yeah.
We could go on if we have anything, if we want to say, but I think we get. So we are going to move into the open mic. We are Skeptic and Ranting, and we are talking, is there scientific evidence for evolution? Hey, why don't we get someone in here, not to brag, but who actually has taught in schools before? Let's get Pat in here. We are Skeptic.
I mean, he doesn't have his PhD yet, but
here's the thing. I take very much homage, not to get political, when they take pot shots at people like Dr. Jill, who actually has their doctorate. And then I very much dislike, I wouldn't say that it's exactly the same as, I'm trying to remember what it's called in the military when someone steals
stolen valor.
Stolen valor. But I would say it's adjacent to stolen valor. And so I really dislike, you know, I only rib the Dr. Kent Hovind as I can, because we love everyone here. But it does piss me off because people who have actual expertise in the field, like Pat, like all of the
Jim Majors, Dr. Josh.
Jim Majors, Dr. Josh, the people that actually are very careful about the subjects that they speak about, will not go outside when they feel like something, or just saying something is an opinion. And then these guys, I always love these guys. They'll
tell you when they, you know, they'll tell you when they're going outside their area of direct expertise, and they may have an opinion on it, but it's not as authoritative, or it's not as, as something they directly have expertise on.
But I'd love to know, like, is someone has gone over his thesis before and they've said it's a mess.
I think Godless Engineer was doing it, or one of them was doing. Oh yeah, I've read through it before. It's.
I'm sure it's a doozy.
It would rival your own fourth grade homework, like your fourth grade.
Does it
project.
have? I hope it doesn't have too many diagrams. We've learned if there's one thing that seems to be a defeater for the Dr. Kent Hovind, it's diagrams.
Well, the opening line is it starts with is "Hello, my name is Kent Hovind."
Hello, my name is Kent Hovind.
Dear Santa Claus, my name is Kent Hovind. I would like evidence for God.
Nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, I want to one more time, as many times as I can, thank Atheist Jr for joining us. And if you want to see the entire debate in its entirety, we're going to be linking it in the description. But we are going into the Skeptic and Ranting open mic on is there scientific evidence for evolution? Woohoo! What is up, Pat?
Hey, Pat.
Lovely to have you with us as always. We are Skeptic and Ranting on is there scientific evidence for evolution? I don't know. What do you think?
I think there's incredible body of evidence to support the major tenets and themes of evolutionary theory. I think, as you fill in some of the gaps where we don't necessarily have the clearest picture of some of the mechanisms, or actually some of the transitional life forms in the fossil record, I think that can be where the creationists attack, right? Oh, you don't have an answer for this. Well, right, we don't, because we haven't found that fossil yet. And it's even harder when we have life forms that don't readily fossilize, and they're trying to say, well, show me this, show me that. I did make a comment in the chat. I was trying to grade some homework while I was doing this, so we'll see how good the students did. But
now, wait, now I do have to ask, does that mean there's a chance they will get better or worse grades?
They usually get better grades.
Yes.
I'm more forgiving when I don't just right.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen.
I can come back to it and be a little more generous, right? But I made a comment in the chat, so I'm going to date myself. It's 1990, and I'm in my second transition into my third year of my undergraduate microbiology degree. And my emphasis was in genetics, microbial genetics. We, even way back in the 1990s, right? So again, this is 30 years ago. We were, as a laboratory class in, like a 300 level genetics class, we were microbial genetics class. We were inducing, categorizing, selecting for, and then tracking the evolution within a species, so microevolution of various strains. I myself was tracking E. coli, and what we were doing was inducing antibiotic resistance, selecting for antibiotic resistant strains, and then differentially selecting for multiple antibiotic resistance in those strains. So there we were actually inducing changes in expression, and then there were all kinds of other things we were looking at, conjugation, which is then again the sharing through pili and other organs of genetic material between species, between different strains of bacteria. But this was all stuff that wasn't rocket science, because they let undergraduates in a 300 level class do it. I mean, this had been demonstrated for 4 decades at least before we were doing it at the prestigious California State University at Long Beach, right? So it wasn't like I was at MIT doing this. I was just at regular old state university. So like the fact that Kent Hovind comes in and starts spewing his shit just shows that it's Kent Hovind, and you shouldn't. I know that we're kind of trying to get our voices out there, but I almost think we should ignore the Kent Hovinds now. And I think we should ignore the creationists who aren't willing to even engage the body of evidence. Because what you end up doing is spinning these people up onto a platform where their craziness and their bullshit is on the same stage as the scientific evidence. And it's really, I mean, what Kent Hovind's doing is standing next to an actual human with a, proportionally developed cranium and intellectual capacity, and he's standing there as a monkey flinging poo. I mean, that's really the difference in the conversations that they're having at that time. So I think platforming someone like Hovind, and I understand what people are doing it. I'm not saying, it's necessarily, but I wouldn't do it. And I'm not saying I'm better. It's time to not even give these people air to keep just consistently repeating their diatribe. So that's it. And I'm sure that the godfather of Canadian atheism wants to come on. So I'll defer and drop back into it because
he hasn't came back yet.
There you go, Randolph.
He's probably asleep right now. He probably dozed off, and as soon as he wakes up and catches himself drooling on himself, he'll pop back in and he'll be in the stream. But yeah.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I think it was interesting to watch, and I watched the whole thing except for a couple times I had to get up and run out and let the dog out and put the chickens away.
Are you saying you had to, or are you rather asking who let the dogs out?
Right, exactly. Well, I let the dog out. I'm down to one dog. I'm very happy about being like as the animals are dying off, and I'm getting, I'm definitely past 50 now. My goal is just to get down to where I have like a cat. like that's it. Like I don't want chickens. I don't goats and things like that. No more of that. Like that was all in the past. It's like I want a cat and that's it.
We are very pro kitty on this stream.
Well, I will say the great thing about cats is you can leave a cat alone in your house for a day or two. Right? Like if you have to go out for the weekend, you put enough food out. My cats are all litter box trained. And you food, water, you may have a neighbor check on them the next day or the day after to make sure they didn't knock over there. And we have multiple water dishes. But like a dog, I dare not leave my dog in the house, even though she's potty trained and we have a doggy door, because shit will just get destroyed. So, and she's an Australian Shepherd. So like a cat, low maintenance, like a house plant, barely above a house plant. But, and they don't give a shit when you're gone anyway. Like they notice you when you come back, and it's like a momentary affection. Like you're back. Let me stroke me for a minute.
I missed you.
I'm special, right? But yeah, but then it's like, yeah, just get out.
And so I'm gonna do two things.
And would you mind putting some food in my bowl, please, and then get the fuck out?
If you wouldn't mind. And so I am just going to bring up both the StreamYard link if you would like to come join us. We are going to be streaming
Jake
for about 15, 20 more minutes and then going to the after show. But you do have a question coming from Jake 4D is asking, wants to know what people thought of platforming. Kent, I've seen a number of prominent channels say it's time to stop. Oh, well, we're just talking about that.
So I mean, again, every platform is going to make its own decision. I think it's kind of good to show him if you're going to show him in a real light, and in that case, it's a bad light. But yeah, I think Jake has a really good point. I think if we just took the wind out of his sails, he'd go away. But I do think that what we need to do then is engage that side of the argument that actually is willing to engage the evidence. Like I would like to see people come on and discuss micro and macro evolution in a competent dialogue, but that doesn't get clicks sometimes, and where people are about clickbaits and holding up his SpongeBob doll. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that drives me nuts, because he doesn't understand this again, like he doesn't even really know what a fossil is. Like if you've ever seen, I've seen him in debates hold up bones aren't fossils.
Yeah, no, exactly, because fossilization is a process, correct?
Right. Like you hold up a clam that's not a fossilized clam. You're holding up a clam. You're holding up bones.
Like,
for all
sir,
intents and
this is
purposes.
Red Lobster.
They
Please stop.
mistake mineral accretions for fossilization, which is a totally separate process.
Correct.
One is coating the outside with minerals. The other is actually turning the substance being replaced with minerals. Correct. But they're happy to peddle that ignorance and say that, oh, look, this little boy put these acorns in water, and 2 years later they're fossilized. They turned to rock.
Right. Well, and so like that is actually, getting back into my other field, like that's an important thing. Like I don't know how often I have to explain to undergraduates in their first field school, like, no, that's not a fossil. like that what you have there is a mineral coating over something, because it's important for as a diagnostic tool. I mean, again, I try to stay as far away from paleontology as I can, and if it's again, we look at Greek, Roman, and stuff in the Mediterranean, but occasionally run across fossilized stuff, and it becomes important for diagnostic purposes, particularly if it's something that was moved to a site because it was fossilized. Like ancient peoples used to collect fossils and think they were really cool.
Like they found something fossilized and they
we actually see that quite a bit in Britain, where at least, I mean, we see it throughout the Mediterranean and in Europe, but where various fossilized rocks were selectively put at entrances to tombs during the late Neolithic and early Bronze Age as like tomb markers. They were believed to have been creatures, like they didn't understand. They're big, they thought they were snails, but that's not important. But they put like pictures. I'll actually look for one. We can throw it up in a second when someone else comes in. But like they would use fossils as decorative artwork, and they that added cultic significance as well. But these things were, even ancient people knew what fossils were, at least colloquially, right? And Ken doesn't even seem to understand what a fossil is.
Even in the 1700s, when they started to find the fossils in I think the Netherlands, in the mines there, and they found fossils of animals that no one had ever seen before, and they couldn't make heads or tails out. Like, what is this? It looks sort of like a lizard crocodile thing, but it's way bigger than anything they've ever seen. Right. And then, of course, how do we fit that in with the Bible? Because, of course, that's the first thing you have to do is pull out a book from the Iron Age and say, how can we make reality fit with this? And say, they swam up from the Nile during the flood, and everything was bigger then. So, again, you just don't know what you're talking about, James. Just like the whales, quote unquote, that they find in the Saharan desert, right? This is. But everybody goes, oh, they're just whales. Whales are whales. No, these are identifiably, they speciate these, right? They're not exactly the same whales we have today. But, you can't, again, it's arguing with people who are unwilling to look at willing to look at the evidence.
They're not willing to look at the fossil record and the genetics. If you're not willing to look at those two things, you really aren't, you can't discuss evolution with people.
And between those, there is really no reason not to believe evolution.
Well, and believe, I just say rely on it as the most explanative framework that we have.
Sure, be convinced.
Like, do I believe that the general principles of evolution are true? But then again, like, we could talk about what belief means, and like in a theological framework, belief means something different than like it means for me, you, James, Amy, and Pat. Like when I say I believe in archaeology, it doesn't mean like I believe in archaeology. Archaeology is not going to do anything for me that I'm not doing for myself, right? Like that's just the reality of it.
It's a field of study, not
right.
a religion.
I'm the first one to tell you that every once in a while we as an archaeologist, we sprinkle pixie dust on shit, and we joke about it because there's just some stuff that we don't know, and we start. We sit around.
Okay, to admit we don't know.
We drink a few beers, and we're like, "What do you think that is?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know what that is." I mean, we're actually looking at objects we pulled out of the ground. Like, what? Yeah, like I don't know where that's from. Do you think that's Egyptian? No, I don't know. It's like someone comes along, and goes, "Oh yeah, that's from." They'll go, "Yeah, that's Tunisian pottery," and we're like, "Oh, thanks." Like because they're an expert in that field.
I can imagine the doctors cutting into somebody and like, "Hey, what do you think that is?" Huh, I don't know.
Well,
but there are unknowns in any situation. There are times where you're going to look inside somebody and you're going to see something you don't know quite what it is because all our bodies are different.
Someone all the time. What are we talking about?
I will tell you something that cardiologists don't do. They don't do knee replacements. You know, I mean, there are general surgeons still out there, and the first thing they do is they realize when they're over their head. When I shattered my tibia and my fibia, it was a special type of break. I had all this radial fracturing, and then I lost I sheared off the head of my tibia, and the orthopedist that was looking at it said, "You need to call in a leg specialist." Like
orthopedic
I'm
surgeon.
yeah, but my guy was my generalist in the ER, and then they moved me temporarily to the ICU for a little bit. They went like, because they thought I might have a compartment hemorrhage. They went, "Hey, look, like this is I'm not going to do surgery on it. You're stable. We're going to get a specialist in," because even though I'm an orthopedic surgeon, I'm not the specialist orthopedic surgeon. So I went to a different orthopedic surgeon. So like,
well, I mean, it's like,
specialist.
The surgery I just had
specialist
back in October, that was a general surgeon. That was a hernia repair, abdominal hernia. But when I had surgery back in 2013, and they had to cut into my spinal cord, that was a neurological surgeon, and that was done at the University of Miami. I had to go drive 2 hours because anytime you're having a doctor cut into your spinal cord, you want to make sure that they kind of know what they're doing. It's not just something you want to have any old surgeon do. So,
right. And I think like Atheist Jr was really engaged in the conversation. I think he's doing a lot of good stuff. I'm enjoying the science engagement, but I just wondering what, as a community, what we're going to do to help make people smarter, particularly people that are deconstructing religion. I do want to pitch something.
Before you do that, and I will let you pitch it, but I will say we got 10 more minutes. So if you agree with us, I would love for you to come on here and say so. But I will say, if you disagree with us, if you think there actually is no scientific evidence for evolution, now is the time to educate these, they call us evolutionists, but I prefer
feeble-minded,
the term people who
deluded,
understand biology at any level past the K through 12 system. There we go. Anyway, we're sending love.
Even at the middle school level. People who have a middle school level understanding.
He was using those books. I mean, he really was looking at the kindergarten thing and being like, it says that the picture goes over here, but where's the stuff in between the picture?
You realize you
need more pictures.
Over 1,000 steps.
The pop-up book can't
There's
be
like
that
1,000
big.
missing.
I don't know what to tell you.
I will tell you, I actually had a thought during that time. The little church books like Noah's Flood, like, and there's like 8 pages, and they're all like the little
smiling Noah with the animals, the smiling giraffes on the ark.
What he's arguing is like, we go, well, this is the story of Noah's Flood. Well, that's not really the story. The story has a lot more details. That's the same argument he's making. Like my picture book Bible, right? He's saying, I'm going, well, this is the Bible. Well, that's not actually the Bible, Pat. He's making the same argument. Right?
That's an oversimplification of the Bible, Pat.
Right, exactly.
Well, yeah.
Like, there's no Trinity in here, so it doesn't exist because it's not in the children's Bible.
Doesn't say so.
Right. Doesn't say Trinity anywhere. Yeah. But so that's where we're at. But since you let me pitch it, Monday, for all those interested.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I wanted to just send it back to you. What were you about to
so before I forget, Video Get Mad, because when you first started the stream, like, Monday we're doing it's episode 12 of our first season. Yay. And we're doing kind of a special deconstruction in the ancient world, like how to we're going to look at the Epicurean paradox, which was the question of evil before Christianity, and take a look at that. And I think for those deconstructing, it'll be kind of a good episode because we're going to talk about modern deconstruction and ancient deconstruction as far as the
back
different
then versus now.
Right. So I think people will find it interesting because deconstruction is all the rage now. Just kidding.
No, that sounds interesting.
Love
The problem of evil. Get the modern take versus the ancient man's take.
I was gonna say it's actually interesting.
Which cultures were the first ones, if I could ask, which ones were the first ones that really took a hard look at that?
Well, so, I mean, it's kind of, we don't see very much of it in Egyptian society. And we're talking from the time we have written records, right? So we really can't really identify it within prehistoric people.
Sure.
But among those societies in my area of focus and specialties, which is the Mediterranean, the first group, ethnic group that we see kind of even approach the question were probably the Greeks. And again, it's Epicurus sometime while he's alive in 3rd century, very end of the third, very end of the fourth, beginning of the third. Sorry, end of the third and beginning of this. About 300. End
BC.
of the right BCE. He asked this.
BC,
He came up. He's credited with the Epicurean paradox, although it's parroted by a later source. He's supposedly the guy that started questioning this idea of. And he never actually doubled down on atheism. And that's kind of what people go, he was an atheist. He may have been, but he never said it out loud because atheism was a capital offense in the ancient world. So denying the gods was different than like explaining how the gods interact with man. And basically what Epicurus said was, well, yeah, sure, they're gods, but they don't give a fuck about us. And since they don't give a fuck about us, I don't give a fuck about them. And that's kind of how he dealt with it. So he was like
early.
But that wasn't atheism.
Right, but he was a nihilist deist, right? Like the gods don't care about us on purpose because we're insects to them, and anybody who thinks they're willing to engage with us are just idiots. I mean, that's kind of
a lot closer to the truth than the other branches. Right?
It's kind of like if you can't be an atheist, that's the closest thing you could be.
And that's absolutely right, James. Yeah, and that's I argue that he is and I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people. He's among the first atheistic philosophers that we have, because to even question the gods' motivations was really like cutting edge back then. Remember, guys like Socrates, one of the crimes that he's charged with is impiety and denial of the gods, right? Like impiety and teaching people wrongly about the gods. And he's got to he gets
leading the youth, misteaching the kids of the
he was only asking questions, so I don't know what their problem was.
Right. And yes, Jake. Yeah.
He was misleading the youth, I guess.
Right. Yeah, and
what about the children? What about the children?
And you laugh, but that's exactly the argument Christians make about atheists leading the children astray. The same. They could just change the name Socrates and put Amy Newman there. I mean, they both wore loose-fitting clothing. And
Amy, the Bible says,
I like those comparisons.
he who would offend one of these little ones that believe in me, it would be better if a millstone were hung around his neck and he were drowned in the river. That's you, Amy. You wanna tell these kids they came from a rock?
I want to be the gadfly, just telling you that your grandpa's a rock, apparently.
Right, and so I think people forget that there's problems with all this, right? There are massive problems with the thinking that thinking differently is bad. Like I have to caution it. Like I always go, well, we say that certain thinking is bad, but I think you have to demonstrate that it's harmful. And I think with religion you can't
show it, yeah.
Right? Like no one. When
it comes to harm with religion, yes, we can.
Right, and so evolutionary theory doesn't harm anybody. I mean,
they often will say that you look at nature and how horrible it is, so you believe all the horrible things because evolution does horrible things. Well, it's like, no. Nature is just cold and uncaring about,
horrible. It's just reality.
You just have to deal with it and try to be a better person in the midst of all that cold and uncaring universe.
Well, I know
I-
we've had discussions, Pat, with people who they say, but my religion is not, hateful or harmful. And, what is the harm if I, teach my kids this very benign, very harmless form of theism? And of course, the thing is, once you start teaching superstition, it's not inconceivable that can be turned a different way, and someone's theology can turn from very passive, very benign to not to harmful once you start going down that path.
I can't remember who in Eastern philosophy is responsible for this analogy, but I think it's apropos at this time. So, I mean, if it's Confucianism or Buddha, I like I said, I don't remember, but it was a bunch of people are swimming across a river, and some of them die because the river's moving fast. And someone asked, those that survive the other side, get to their side are happy they made it, but they all turn around to the wise person there and saying, isn't it awful that some of us died? And the philosopher of this story says, well, who do you blame? Do you blame the river? Well, no, the river's just doing what the river does. Do you blame the people? Well, if they would have stayed on the other side, they would have died, because in the analogy, one side of the river is good, one side of the river is bad. You don't blame anyone. Like, it just happens.
Yeah.
Like, you can't blame the river. You can't blame the people. We can't blame evolution. Evolution just happens. Like, the factors, like the fact that Amy and I both go to the beach and one of us gets skin cancer, right? It just happens. One of us doesn't. One of us does. So Amy's repair mechanisms work better than mine, so I get skin cancer. She doesn't. Like, these aren't like for you or against you. These are just realities of the world we live in. Some people their cellular biology is wired just slightly different, and so they're a little more resistant to cancers than other people. And then, I mean, who's responsible for, a 6-year-old getting leukemia? No one. Just shit happens. But as a society, we try to fix it.
Though under a creationist world model, we do know who is to blame for that.
That's true. I mean, I just want to know why they don't picture
God's will, Amy. God's will.
I know, works in mysterious ways.
Well, God's got a little green ray gun, and he gives some certain people. He has, a setting for leukemia. He's got a setting for skin cancer. He's got,
God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, they have a meeting once a day, and they decide which kids are going to die of cancer today, and what their plan is going to be, plan everything out. They've got all these parents praying for their kids to be cured, and they have to decide which ones they're going to say yes and which ones they're going to say no, like the emperor in the Colosseum. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
So my wife used to work at Children's Hospital in California, and I don't talk about my wife's work, but for a while she was working in a unit where they had terminal. I mean, the Children's Hospital is all about children that are ill, but they do have terminal wards, right? That's just the reality of the hospital.
Where they're not expected to make it,
right, or high likelihood of not surviving,
serious illness,
right. So my wife used to come home just busted up, and occasionally I'd go to work to, I get off work at my job and go see her, and like just seeing people huddled in the hallways of Children's Hospital, like desperately hoping. And at that point, I don't blame them. I'm a parent at the time. I got 2 kids. I don't blame anybody for reaching out for whatever they can.
Right.
But I knew also it was doing zero good. Like, and that's just, the reality. You're sitting there talking to, neurologists. In my son's case, my son is developmentally disabled. So it's like, neurologists looking at you like, there's nothing we can do. Like, we can work with what we got and get him the specialized therapies that will help him be as functional as he can be. But the reality is there's no golden bullet. Right. There's no Yahweh's not going to fucking appear and make shit better. And I've, again, I still have a $1,000 challenge. I don't have like James Randi money, but I'm still waiting for someone to show up at my door, knock, and say, hey, I'll cure your son of his debilitating condition, and I'll write him $100,000 check the same fucking day. But again, I'm in the phone book, so. But he has to be cured. I can't just say he got better. I want 100%, money back guaranteed.
And I want to just make this one point from Pine Creek, and then Pat, you're actually going to start us off on our outros. So I want to thank.
We didn't have any other takers,
panel.
huh?
Oh, like I said, we had the resident archaeologist of the house.
You're a resident archaeologist.
And
the one we can afford.
Pine Creek always says that he's just waiting for the water soaked napkin to be lit, turned on fire. Just little miracles that would actually defy physics, not like a trick, like it's somehow doused in something.
Yeah.
Water soaked napkin, light it on fire. It would be a good start. We just little things. The miracle bar is just so low lately. They really need to step up their game. But all right.
I was gonna make a joke. It's the Oreo that doesn't get soggy in fucking milk. Like, I'm willing to do that one. You put an Oreo in a cup of milk for 3 minutes and it doesn't get soggy.
Pat will
I'll fucking believe in God. I mean, I'm pretty low bar.
Look, I feel like that's a good standard. And I feel like the triple stuffed Oreo makes me not believe in God. So we have
kind of nasty.
No. I love all Oreos, ladies and gentlemen. Pat's like, no, you were speaking the truth there. But we are sensing
15 feet, Amy. 15
foot. What is up, Sir Little Wolf? Oreos. And
Little
all
Wolf.
right, with that, we are Skeptic and Ranting. We have been talking, is there scientific evidence for evolution? And we are moving into our outros.
Sent in the mime.
That's right, baby.
Oh, I'm doing my.
Thank you so much, Pat. I know we some may say we stay up to the crack of noon somewhere, but we are sending you so much love. Thank you for joining us in our Skeptic and Ranting. Is there scientific evidence for evolution? Where can people find you? And of course, what are your final thoughts?
And remind everybody about Monday.
Yeah.
Monday.
Thanks for having me on. Again, you can see me on the Biddy Buddha channel. Monday, we're going to be talking about reconstruction or deconstruction in the ancient world, and then reconstructing those systems, how people kind of walked away from religion as far as they could within an ancient context in many ways. And it seemed to be skepticism, right, is what got them there. The ancient version of skepticism. I do think it's important to remember that if the only book you're reading about the nature of the universe is a Bronze Age text, you need to read another book. And that's the only challenge I give to people. If you're going to read the Bible, go get a introductory college level course book and read it. And don't, and read it with the intention that you would read the Old Testament or the New Testament. Read it and actually study it. And then when you don't know something, reference out of that book, right? Go and learn the stuff you don't learn. Just like when Amy and I and James are reading the Old Testament, and there's a word or a context we don't understand, we go to other literature and look it up and go, oh, that's what they mean, right? Do that, but do that with evolutionary biology. And I guarantee on the other side, even if you remain a religious person, at least you'll understand biology a lot better and evolutionary biology and not sound like an idiot.
So many of them are not trying to understand it. They're actively trying to misunderstand it and to propagate that misunderstanding. Because when you do understand it and it works, you just understand that it's true, right?
Yeah, and again, Jake, discovering ancient skepticism with Pat Longer, that would be awesome. I think that would be, but actually that's going to be either Shane Bilowitz or Shane the Skeptic's shtick. I mean, I like
We
philosophy. in the
platform
ancient
all Shanes on this channel.
We do. Like, we just have a dearth of Shanes. But yeah, thanks for having me on the show, and I'm really
Thanks,
glad
Pat.
that you guys did this one. I mean, this one means more to me than a lot of the other ones because Kent Hovind just a bad person, and maybe we take the win out of his sails. Amy can start doing more political commentary. Just kidding. No, but Amy can start. I'm still waiting to see Amy stand up on the channel.
Woo-hoo! That is actually in the works. I'm about to release 2 new promo type of things, and then I feel like stand up will be the next. Because open mics I've been
Stand Up for
checking out
Truth.
recently, they are coming back as mandates or as things are becoming back to normal. I don't know what normal is, but you know what I mean. They are opening stuff. So, more stand-up
As the
coming
midterms
soon.
approach.
And thank you so very much, Pat. Woohoo! And all right, we are handing it to both the co-pilot and the producer. James, we have been Skeptic and Ranting on is there scientific evidence for evolution. What do you think? Did Kent convince you?
Oh, of course he didn't, but it was still a really good show. So Mark did a really good job on that debate, and thanks to Atheist Jr for coming on, helping us with it. He's given me a lot of tips and coaching going into the debate next Friday, so we're getting ready for that. Thanks, Pat. Thanks to Atheist Jr for helping us, and we will see you guys shortly. Say bye-bye.
Woo-hoo. Bye-bye. Such a cutie. And he works so hard.
He
for
works
just
so
catnip.
hard.
But I do want to actually send a final shout out. You should be checking out all of the fantastic non-believer community content out there. You should be going down to Pat's channel with the lovely, fantastic, and fabulous Biddy Buddha. And then you should be checking out Atheist Jr.'s channel. I feel like this is redundant. Hold on. You should be going to the Atheist Jr. channel right down there. And hell, why not? You should be going to Tart Down Live. Hell, you should
go
be
there
going
too.
To all of, because funny thing, we don't have to create holy wars or have to have takedown videos of each other.
Oz is going to hell.
I know. For not believing in the one thing, or as
you're going to hell too, Amy.
I know. Well, that's where all the cool people are going. That's what I hear.
God knows that thing you did with your pee-pee, and he is not happy about it. He is really pissed, Amy.
My, I will
you
say
are in
all
trouble.
The
You've been naughty.
Woo! Sending love, James. I think you are freaking awesome, and I just want to send love to all of you as we hope you had a fun time on this episode of Skeptic and Ranting. Is there scientific evidence for evolution? Yes. Where tonight
huge evidence.
A debate called "Is there scientific evidence for evolution?" A debate of which I will put in the link after the stream is done, between Kent Hovind versus Mark Drysdale from the channel Standing for Truth, for a scientifically good time. Though I do want to thank my co-host, James W., along with our special guest host, Atheist Jr., along with our guest, Pat, woo-hoo, as well as the people in chat, our awesome
we love you guys.
mods who make this stream so great. and lovely viewers like you who make this channel even possible. If you enjoyed the show, please like, follow, or
Randolph on
subscribe.
Sunday.
And once you do, you gain access to that bell icon, which could be set to all so that you can get reminders to join our live streams. Woo-hoo!
Set the bell to Randolph.
After the show, we will be heading over to the Skeptic and Ranting Discord server, the link of which is in the description below. Or hey, leave a comment once the video's done.
Hey, Amy, who am I?
I know, the Godfather.
The Godfather.
Lastly,
Plum?
if you'd like to help us make even more content, we offer some perks. Gavin?
Gavin's known to fall asleep once in a while on stream.
Every once in a while. We offer some perks for our supporters by checking out our Patreon at patreon.com/Amy Newman. I am Amy Newman, and we will see you all on the next episode of Skeptic Ball Z. Good night, everyone.
Good night, guys.
Mwah.